What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Codex Station. We have a special episode of the Codex Slabbed. I'm your host, Sal the Slab Guy, coming to you from the Slabatorium itself. My co-host tonight is right over here. It's Dan the Kelly Art, and we have a very special guest on with us tonight, the 9.9 Newsstand man himself. How you doing, buddy?
I'm really well, Sal. There's been a lot going on, but let me say it's been a long time since we've shared a screen together. It was a pleasant conversation last time, so it's really nice to see you again. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. I apologize for being a little bit late. No one knew that until I said that, but I might as well confess I was late. Sorry. Dan, you and I, we speak on Instagram often enough, but it's nice to be able to have this at length conversation this evening, and we'll see what we tackle, what we get into. Let's have some fun, but I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Oh, I've been looking forward to talking with you again. Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure, man.
Absolutely. But before we dive into some questions, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, what's going on with you, and all that good and plenty.
Oh, I appreciate it. Very simply, my hub, if you will, is Instagram, and you can connect with me at the 9.9 Newsstand. I like to be as helpful as possible. I like to be a resource when and where I can. So if you ever have any questions, just pop into the DM, and if I don't get to it, send it again. You know, sometimes things get a little busy, but I want to see them and I want to be helpful. But shoot me a follow, scroll through the page, ask me any questions you want, and let's connect on Instagram. You will find me popping up here and there on YouTube on friends' channels, much like, you know, this evening. But I do have a YouTube channel, but I haven't contributed any content to it. Instagram is home base for me, and I would certainly appreciate connecting with anyone there. Thank you.
All right, roger that. Very good. Dan, you got some. You have an Instagram account too. Why don't you give a little shout out there?
Yeah, you can check me out on Instagram at Dan Kelly Art. You know, I post a few times a week. I've been posting a lot of sketch covers recently. I just posted a Rocketeer one today that I did, where I did just a profile of his helmet and the top there. I have another Rocketeer one I'm working on that I'm going to try and finish the pencil so I can have them side by side, you know, on the post there, where that one's going to be a full body one of him, like, you know, flying straight up. So,
nice.
And plus like all the other sketch covers and non-sketch cover art that I do. So go check it out, buy some stuff. As I always say, have your money become my money, so I can use that money to then buy comics that I can show off on here.
We're feeding the ecosystem. We're feeding the ecosystem that we love so much. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. And of course, you can always find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner, or Instagram as the Slab Guy 77. Either one, I usually post to both when I do make my content. I usually talk about my slabs or whatever mail call I got going on. So always check me out there.
Awesome.
All right, let's dive in. I think Dan's got the first question for you, Dan. Why don't you hit him up?
Well, you know, I'd you know, as you said, we talk on Instagram from time to time, and I'd reached out to you a while ago when PSA announced, hey, we're going to start grading comics too, because, you know, I don't have graded cards. I don't have a lot of cards to begin with. I knew of PSA just from being in the, you know, in the collecting world, you know, and I know a little bit about them, but you know, them jumping into comics was, you know, that was a pretty major announcement. And you know, I mentioned, you know, I messaged you at the time, like, hey, you want to come on and talk about this? And you said, you know, let's wait until some more news comes out, some more information. And then when they announced, hey, we're live, I was like, all right, now's the time. So, you know, and you agreed. So what are your thoughts on PSA, you know, still staying in, you know, as the clear leader in the card grading world, like no one else is close. So what are your thoughts on them jumping from that into now jumping into grading comics as well?
I was excited. They've been working on it longer than I've been involved in it. I've been involved in it now, let's say a year and a half, right? And they're probably closer to 2 years in, really developing this department, you know, a thought and an idea that naturally they would have as the leading grading company to get into this space as well, albeit a smaller space when compared to cards, but to us, one of the most significant spaces that there are. And we've been lacking in the sense that we haven't had a real competitor. Now, this isn't, you know, I have my fair share of throwing CBCS under the bus, but I kind of feel like they throw themselves under the bus. So I don't feel that troubled when I mention something that they don't do to properly be a competitor. But, you know, respect to them as well. They have a great slab and a great product. but they didn't deliver the right competition that we as the collecting community and people that engage with third-party grading needed to keep the larger grading company, CGC, in check. CGC has been getting away with a lot. I mean, there's really no other way to put it.
Yeah.
You have fraud, you have swapping, you have defective cases, you have bent books, but they're the only show in town. And a lot of people will tell you what,
you got them on the on the one major scandal.
and
you were the
that's
one that found that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. That was one of the biggest things that happened. And I will say that the way the community came together after a lot of that supporting evidence was brought to the table or brought to the light, I had never seen that happen before. That was a tipping point. That's when I knew that everyone is fed up and we need something better. Now, better takes time to develop, but if you can bring a competitor into the market that has the money and the brand power to actually take a chunk out of the market space from the beginning and continue to push until they maybe take even more or possibly even a lead further down the line, that's going to take time. That is enough pressure to put on CGC so that they have to earn our business, so they don't think that they could be sleeping on the job and still get these submissions. So first you had the scandal, then you had a post that I made about what if PSA started grading comics, and that's when PSA and I became acquainted because they saw that post and they were already thinking about this stuff. And once we connected, and some of my other friends were involved as well, but once PSA and I connected, I was really, really enthusiastic about saying now is the time, guys. Like we are, as a community, need something to break up a monopoly for all intents and purposes. And it's a great time for you to come in because the support that CGC has had is not as strong at the moment. So it's a really great time to enter and make a serious effort at it. And now, even though they're a company with all the money and all the infrastructure and all the tools and all of the people, this is still a completely new category and a new space for them. It's kind of like a startup within a larger infrastructure. So they had to go through all the learnings themselves about what it means to encapsulate a book. They had to re-engineer and reinvent larger format cases. There's a lot of work that went into labels. There's multiple versions of the cases. They had to do hiring. You need a leader for the grading team. You need a grading team. You need to learn everything about pressing and set up all the equipment and have the dedicated space. Then you need a leader for pressing. Then you need the leading presser or the head of that department is going to be teaching and leading. All of this was not a small feat. And even though it feels like a year and a half is a long time to come to market, if you think about it, could you imagine if someone? It's not. It's
like
really
there's
not.
companies that'll be not for this, but there's companies that'll have their product like 10 years they're working on it before they're ready to take it to market. So a year and a half is very quick.
Yeah, and I'll say Elizabeth is she's the manager of pop culture at PSA, so she handles a lot of stuff, but she's the head of the comic book department. And all of this kind of starts with her, and she's developed every other wing of this out. And our friend Neo Cards and Comics, he just had an interview yesterday. The interview came out today. It took place yesterday, but it came out today with Elizabeth. And so she goes into that a lot as well, in a very clear sort of way. She goes into what it took to start this. Not only that, Elizabeth and PSA, they have their own YouTube channel, and they do a PSA podcast. And the episode from about 3 days ago, perhaps, is Elizabeth discussing these things as well. So if anyone wants to get, more of that sort of information direct from Elizabeth, those are two great shows or interviews to watch, both on the PSA site, YouTube channel, and on Neo's. And of course, I agree with, all of that sentiment about how much work actually went into this. And so to take it back to the initial question, I'm super excited, super optimistic. And now that as of the 14th, it's officially, we can submit. You can go onto the website or go onto the mobile site, and there's a comics tab, and you can select for grading. You can select for grading plus pressing. You could do crossovers. You could do a crossover with a minimum grade. Now, since you're not coming from the card world, let me break that down really quick. So let's say you have a CGC 9.8, right? And you could just send it in for a crossover, meaning they crack it out and they're going to grade it and put it in a PSA case, but they might deem it to be a 9.6. Maybe CGC graded it too loose for their standards, right? That happens. If a book comes out of a case, you never know what it's going to grade again. It's a different grader. It's a different company.
It's a roll of the dice sometimes.
It's a roll. You send a book in for a signature. You could send in a 9.8, get a 9.4 back. You know,
That's happened to me.
It happens, and it's unfortunate. That's why it's so important to buy the book, not the grade. Set yourself up for success. Even if it says 9.8, make sure you're buying a real 9.8. Make sure you're buying the kind of 9.8 that a grader on a good day might have given a 9.9. You know, then you're in a really good place, right? As long as they handle it correctly when it's there. But
don't
if you
buy
do
the 9.8 that's got the 2 color breaking ticks at the bottom.
Don't do that. Because you're not going to get the chances are you won't get the 9.8 again, right? You get a more serious grader the day it's graded again, and it won't be a 9.8 again. So if you do a crossover with a minimum grade, that's actually really fun, because that's you know, sending any grade book that you want and saying, do not crack this and cross it over unless you examine it through the case and feel confident that it could maintain your minimum grade requirement. So if I'm sending a CGC 9.8 in, well, I want it to maintain its 9.8. So I will do a crossover plus a minimum grade of 9.8. And if it doesn't meet their requirements for 9.8 based on their analysis through the slab, they don't crack it out. You get the CGC slab back. Now, it's not free. They still have to look it over. They still have to do the process. So you're still going to get charged for it, rightfully so. It's still time and effort. But they're not going to devalue your item based on downgrading it if you have a minimum grade. So I don't even know how I got into the minimum grade thing. But, to say they're ready. You know, submissions are open and submissions are going in. You know, people DM me every day about the orders they're prepping and what they've sent. And, of course, questions about what they should send. And at this point in time, have fun. You know, we're all learning as we go. Let's see. How do we like the slabs when we have them? How do we feel about the grading when we get the books back? You know, maybe don't send a $20,000 book if it's not your thing, but a couple $250, $225 books where if it's a 9.8 in any company, you know, it's going to roughly be worth $200. It's not the biggest deal. Let's see what it's like. And once you get a taste, if you appreciate their service, their speed, their accuracy, we'll send some more. You don't have to take a $5,000 bite out of this pie from the beginning. And I think a lot of people are leaning into that. Like, you know what? This is actually fun. Let's find out if we like this by doing it. And so a lot of that's happening.
So I got a couple of questions in for you. Since you've been, looks like you've been in there since day one on getting them, you know, or talking with them and stuff like that.
Close to it. Yeah.
Do you have a rough feel of how many graders they'll have on site for this or dedicated to that?
I don't know. Like 6 months from now is going to be very different from now. So now, you know, they have a few, right? But that department is building out as we speak. You know, the protocols and the guidelines of it have been set in place by the head grader, Mr. Mark Wilson, and he's doing a fantastic job there. And that team is being built out. But 6 months, it might be 6 times the size that it is now.
True, very true. That actually led to my next question: is what set of standards are they going to follow? Are they going to follow the Overstreet Guide standards, like some other companies have, or think they're going to, you know?
That's such a good question. And the fact that you asked the question makes me think maybe there's something interesting that you're not aware of. And if you are, that's fine too. I'm still going to say it, but maybe you aren't aware. This is fascinating.
Say it.
So they are following the same standards that we're used to, the decimal point scale. They're not changing the grading scale. They're not going to the card grading scale where it's 8, 8.5, 9, and then 10, and then 0.5s down. But they on the bottom end, they've introduced something that CBCS has always had, but CGC doesn't. And someone can correct me, keep me honest. But 1.5 is not. I'm sorry, 0.5 is not the lowest grade. There's a 0.3 as the lowest grade. And I think that carries over from CBCS. And they have the description of what a 0.3 is. And if I remember correctly, it basically is a 0.5, but incomplete. I think if it's missing a page or something, you're going to get the 0.3. You're not going to get the 0.5. Right. I think that's what that is. And then at the top of the scale, they've eliminated the 9.9.
So it just goes 9.8 to 10?
It goes 9.8 to 10. And Elizabeth goes into depth about this, but I'm happy to go into depth about this as well, because these are conversations we've had. And I support the decision. And I can make an argument for either, you know, keeping a 9.9, not keeping a 9.9. In my perfect world, Not that, it doesn't matter here, but in my perfect world, I would have eliminated the 10, but that's a personal psychology. I don't believe in perfection. I think 9.9 is pretty awesome,
Have
But
you gotten your 9.9 newsstand yet, by the way?
I never have, man. I still have not successfully graded a 9.9 newsstand. But, it's the philosophy, it's the aspiration, and it's forever going to be my name, knock on wood, God willing. I love it, and so I'll keep it. But it has, I'll break down the meaning later, but because there's something to it that I really love, and I don't see myself getting away from that. But no, I haven't succeeded in grading a 9.9. And part of the conversations with PSA about do we need this 9.9 were very clearly this. It was, well, first let's take a step back and talk about CGC's relationship with the 9.9 and the 10. Quite frankly, 10s have been gate kept. They were not given out when they could have been, but more than that, the 9.9 was gate kept. See, if a 10 is supposed to be the absolute perfect book, well, that means the 9.9 is as close to perfect as you could get, but with examination, you're going to find something, right? And a lot of people get in this mindset that a 9.8 is a perfect book. Well, it absolutely isn't, because then it wouldn't be a 9.8, It would be the 10 or the 9.9. And there's an idea that someone educated me about, and I'm going to break that down in a second. But historically, I've been following the distribution of 9.9s, and friends like Ryan at Automatic Comics have been following it very closely ever since like that conversation started from like that Matt Nelson interview and some of the questions I had asked about 9.9s. But books that were that were deserving of 9.9s, they just weren't given them. Because when I always use Ultimate Fallout 4 as the example, with 19,500 graded, 5,000 some odd 9.8s, you're telling me there's no 9.9s? Nonsense. There are 9.9s. The point is, most of those books were graded during the pandemic, and during the pandemic, there was an obscene backlog. So when you have an obscene backlog, you're not going to scrutinize 9.9s because that has to be checked and checked again before you actually give it that. So the instruction was, give it a 9.8 and get it out of here. We got books to grade. Nobody complains about 9.8s. And that's the truth. Collectors don't complain about 9.8s. And so that's what they did. And that's why there's a ton of 9.9s that should have been given 9.9s as 9.8s. But now it would appear they're reversing that a bit. And they're showcasing to us, because now the first 9.9 Ultimate Fallout 4 has been graded. The first out of 20,000 graded, the first 9.9 exists. And wouldn't you know it, it's got a tick on it. It's got a color-breaking tick on it. And so what they're showing us is, guys, 9.9s are imperfect. Also, they're preparing the stage to start giving out 10s, because PSA is in the business of giving out 10s. That's how they won over the card grading community, because Beckett's Gem Mint grade, BGS's Gem Mint grade, is a 9.5. PSA's Gem Mint is a 10. What do people like? Bigger numbers.
Yeah.
So what do people want? They want a 10.
I mean, I think that PSA should have gone like Nigel and Spinal Tap, and just it goes to 11.
It goes to 11, right?
Make 10 one louder, and then you can have it go to 10. But it goes to 11.
Right.
PSA should have an 11.
Maybe that day's coming, right? Like, what are we going to do next here? So PSA's thought was, after grading hundreds of books in advance, right, really figuring out their structure and their process, graders were really struggling. These are experts, and it's always like this odd conflicting place where you're at, like, is this a 9.9? Is this a 10? What am I supposed to give this book? Is this a freaking 9.9 or is this a 10? Well, to remove any of that complication, it makes sense to get rid of the 9.9. If the book is really clean, but it's not virtually perfect, well, it's a 9.8. And if the book is super clean and it's very difficult to find an imperfection, very difficult to find it, well, it's a 10. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's like, if it's a 9.9, what is, like you said, what is it that separates that from a 10? It's like, oh, it's Sydney Sweeney. Oh, but she's got a little blemish on the corner there. I don't give a shit. It's Sydney Sweeney.
Exactly, right? And so if you have a book that you look at it, and you even look at it under, with focus, and you take some time, if you can't identify a flaw as a grader, why would that book be a 9.8? If you can't, and if you identify the most minuscule flaw, well, that's why 9.9s came into play. But we actually do live in a society where a super tiny flaw is accepted in a virtually perfect item. People that deal in PSA, they like, I'm going to show you an example of something. It's not easy to get 10s. I'm not saying this is easy. A book that doesn't deserve a 10 is not going to get it. Same way a card. So one of my favorite cards is the Venom rookie card, 1989 Venom rookie card, right? This is the first time this image appears on a card, but a year before it appeared on a sticker. I also consider that the rookie, and I love that too. So I recently submitted 6 of these, 5 in one submission. I opened a box. The box of these, they're fun to open, but you have to hit some high grades because the box is kind of pricey. Sorry, what'd you say?
I saw your post about that where you had all the Venom rookie cards.
Yeah, so I submitted one early because I gifted it to a friend, and I had a feeling it was going to be a 9. So it turned into a 9, and I gifted it to a friend. I have yet to ship it to him, but it is his. And then I finally got around to grading the other 5. And let's take a look at the results. So I thought that I had a shot at 3 10s here, okay? And maybe even 4. I thought I had a shot at maybe 4, but 3 is what I was thinking. So one of them got a 7, and rightfully so. That centering is crap at the top. See how thin that centering is compared to the bottom border? So I was pretty much an idiot for sending this one, let's be honest. So this one's going to be given away for free, right? This is one that I thought had
I was going to say, I think that goes to it too. People will look at something and say, oh, there's no dents on this, there's no ticks, there's none of this. But to get a 10, it's not just that. You could have it where there is no damage to it and not be a 10 because of something like an error where it was made, where, it's not centered properly, and that's nothing that you can do to help it. That's just how it exists.
And you know what? It's good that you point that out, because that only is a factor when you're thinking about the 10s, right? They want 10s that have a proper wrap on them. So if it's miswrapped, meaning visual appeal, you see too much of the back cover on the front, chances are they're not going to consider that one for a 10. But a miswrap or poor centering on a comic book is not actually part of the grading criteria. A 9.8 can be a 9.8, regardless of wrap and centering. Unlike cards, on cards, centering is actually one of the 4 points of grading concern. On cards, it's centering, corners, edges, and surface. Comic books, it's many more criteria because you have front and back and pages. But centering is actually only effectively a factor if you're thinking about giving something a 10, because how can you give something a 10 if the visual appeal isn't there, right? Mm-hmm. That has to be factored in. So I'll make this short. 3 of them that I thought had a chance at a 10 all got 9s. Okay, so 3 got 9s, and as 9s, the last sale was $329. So let's say it's $325, right? The last sales of the 10s were $1,400. 2 of them sold at $1,400. 1 of my 5 cards got a 10. So even though I'm picking the best of the best, and even though PSA is in the business of giving 10s, because that's what makes their customers happy, it's not like they're just throwing them out there willy-nilly. They still have a reputation to preserve.
Because that devalues the 10.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And so they're still going to be very stringent, but the game changer here is the notion that if it deserves a 10, give it a 10. Because previously with the other grading companies, if it deserved higher than a 9.8, it really wasn't given what it deserved. It was turned into a 9.8 and sent out, unless you had, some special relationships and some special circumstances here and there. Some people ended up getting 9.9s. And then also there was this idea of comparative grading where if you had 20 of a book and you sent it in, maybe you get 199 out of it. But let's be real. Who's got 20 perfect copies of any book worth grading? Very few people have that. That's not fair. If a book comes across a grader's desk and it deserves a 9.9 or a 10, well, it should get it. What are we doing here? Like, we're paying you to assess it. PSA is going to give it what it deserves. And I think people are going to be pleased. Some people might think it's going to be easy and they don't get any 10s, and they might think, what the heck? I thought we were supposed to get 10s. No, you still got to earn the 10. It still has to look like it, but they're not going to hold it from you if it deserves it. So that's one of the changes they made. Got rid of the 9.9 so that they can give high grade books high grades and make people happy. But carefully, because you tarnish the reputation, well, then we're back to square one again, right? So I don't think they're going to mess it up. I think they're going to do a good job, but I do think people are going to finally get the grades that they deserve, and that's very cool to me.
So what do you think? It's too early right now because, like you said, they just started taking submissions
Right.
in. What do you think is going to be the effect that they have on CGC and CBS? Like, there's a bunch of other ones. We mentioned them later, but like those are the two big ones. It's CGC and CBS under them. How long do you think it will take them PSA to really chip into into what those two do, and maybe overtake them, how long do you think it's going to take them to have a real major effect? Because we're not really going to know value wise what their books are going to be compared to books graded by CGC, CBCS, for a while, until we start getting a lot of them on the market, and it's all that too. It's people are just the aesthetics. People like the CGC label. They don't like change.
They do.
The PSA label, looks a lot different than the CGC label. Are people going to, and we've seen people will take a lesser product because aesthetically they're used to it or prefer it for some unknown reason.
Right. So the psychology of a collector is so interesting, right? And why people might choose what they choose, even sometimes if they know that buying the book, not the label, or buying the book, not the grade, is the wisest thing to do.
Yes.
Sometimes people don't, right? Maybe cohesiveness throughout their collection. They've got a wall display. They want it all to be blue labels, or they want it all to be yellow labels. Maybe they're signature series collectors. There's a lot of things as collectors. We make our thing, and we don't like our thing changing, right? Because that's our thing. So there are interesting obstacles in that, but those sorts of obstacles, the psychology, it takes a lot of time to sort of shift someone organically, right? They have to want to go that direction. They can't be forced. But I'm going to take it a step back a little bit. We talked about PSA entering the market. What does that mean for CBCS and CGC? Now, I'm going to tell you my opinion is I think CBCS is very close to done. My opinion. Right. And that's based on a couple of things. Based on their back office, their business is very poorly run. And that's reflected both on Beckett, because Beckett's the owner of CBCS. So their card company, the infrastructure seems a little shabby, and they're losing ground, just continuing to lose ground. And they have been for a while now. It's unfortunate. And CBCS just seems rather neglected. We don't really see any great marketing from them. We made this joke on a stream the other night. Someone said, "What's the last thing CBCS done?" And I said, "Make fun of CGC." That's the last good thing they did, was make fun of the banana situation. What did they do after that?
The one thing that they had going for them that CGC didn't have was signature verification. That was the one major thing they had. And then CGC, which everybody talked about for years and years, why don't you have signature verification? They finally get it. Do you know if PSA is going to have that? Because looking at their website, I didn't see anything
PSA
about that.
PSA is always said. No. So for comics, it's coming out in about 2 to 3 months. It's not part of the launch, but it's completely going to be part of the overall play, because they are already in the business of signature verification. They always have been authenticating signatures for sports cards and other cards alike. So other cards as well. That part of that business is being developed right now, and it is absolutely going to apply to comic books. But we're a couple months out from that being a buyable option or orderable thing, right? But I feel though, CBCS, this is bad for them because PSA as a brand has a much stronger hold in the collecting community than CBCS does. And it's not just about converting existing comic book graders to PSA graders. It's also the fact that PSA is going to introduce comic book grading to an audience that is their card audience that has never considered doing it before. So customers that never became CBCSs or CGCs are now going to be freshly introduced, and they're going to go with PSA. And also, PSA being so woven into the fibers of sports magazines are highly collected and highly collectible. And PSA is the slab people are going to want to put their sports magazines in, to be honest. A Sports Illustrated in a PSA feels a lot more at home than it does in a CGC.
Well, like you said, especially when people are set in their ways, if they have all of these, PSA cards, and probably when they have that high level stuff, they're going to have stuff on display. It's going to look a lot nicer to them to have that, that continuity between all of it.
Right.
Correct. So that's definitely a factor. And so I think this is pretty problematic for CBCS. And even without this, I think CBCS isn't doing too hot. I wish them the best. It doesn't sound like I do, but I have no skin in their game. I wish them the best. I just think, matter of fact, this is bad for them. And I don't know, maybe the end is near for them, because the people that run the business there, they don't do a good job. So moving on to that, what effect does this have on CGC? Well, immediately, it absolutely puts pressure on CGC. So CGC is already going to have to offer customers something good to keep them, right? They're going to have to step up their game so that PSA doesn't eat their lunch. But there are absolutely, I talk to people every day that are CGC customers that are also submitting to PSA. So that book that went to PSA otherwise would have gone to CGC. So effectively, CGC is already getting, books removed from their potential submissions,
pipeline.
Right?
Yeah, pipeline.
And exactly. I don't know how PGX still even exists.
I don't either. I don't actually consider them in existence, although I do take advantage of their incompetence, and I do well when I am aware of an opportunity, because there are certain things that we as collectors know that even they don't know. And so, and people that grade with PGX, they're an interesting bunch, and so you could take advantage of the mistakes they make, but also you have to be very careful, because generally speaking, their mistakes will harm the buyer of a PGX book, meaning you'll buy an ASIN 300 as a 9.8 for $1,700, even though it's supposed to be $2,500, but in it is a 9.4. A PGX, I know it sounds really harsh, is not to be taken seriously, and no grading company is concerned about them. No serious collector or investor is concerned about them. Quite frankly, nobody cares about them. The three people that are here, two used to be CBCS and CGC, period, and now there's a third. But that third player, I think, is in the middle slot. I think just PSA coming to the market puts CBCS here and CGC here, and PSA is going to try to, they're going to try to move their way up, and they're going to keep moving. PSA is they have the money, they have the brand power, and quite frankly, they just want to, and when you really want to be successful in a space, you're gonna push, and that push we're gonna see as a community. We're gonna benefit from this, because everything they try to offer us to win us and everything CGC tries to offer to keep us, that's just us winning. And I tell people this all the time. It doesn't matter if you don't want to grade with PSA. If all you want to do is grade with CGC, you should still support PSA, because that makes CGC have to earn your business by giving you something better than they've given you before. If they fear losing you, they will fight to keep you. So to fear losing you, you have to give a little bit of love to PSA. It's that simple. Supporting PSA is a win-win regardless of what side of this thing you're on, because we're all on the side of quality third-party grading, and that's the bigger picture. Let's evolve this ecosystem. I'll take a little bit of a breather, and then we'll talk about the label, because boy, oh boy, is that a conversation.
Yeah, I saw one person describe it. Wait a minute, I got it here. It's described as PSA's comic label looks like they were designed in Microsoft Paint by someone who's never seen a comic or colors or joy. It's like
I saw that comment.
Wow.
Wait, who left that comment? I remember that guy. I think it's someone I know.
It's on Instagram. I saw it for was it Josh Comic Books, Aaron Comic Books?
Oh, that was Aaron. Oh, that's Aaron.
Yeah. Aaron. Yeah, I like his channel too. I like his questions. His say no to FOMO.
Yeah, no, Aaron's my guy, and I know this is not live, so when I say this, it's not going to effectively be accurate once this plays. But today is what the heck is today? Today's the 18th, Friday the 18th. Tomorrow, Saturday the 19th. Aaron, whose handle is Josh's Comic Books, Aaron and Elite together is hosting Comics for a Cause, and they're raising money for the floods in Texas. And last year he raised money, or was it earlier this year, the fires in LA? Was that earlier this year? That wasn't it?
Yeah, that was earlier this year. Yeah.
He did Comics for a Cause to raise money for the fires in LA, and he raised $80,000.
Wow.
And so
Amazing.
he and a group of their friends are going to raise some money again. And I've got some things that I'm donating, some PSA 10 cards. So basically, you're selling stuff, but the money's not coming to the sellers. The money is going directly to a charity, and then the screenshot of the donation is sent to us, the sellers. Once we have confirmation that the money's been donated, we ship the items to the buyer. But the money all goes to charity. So that's happening tomorrow. So shout out, Aaron.
Yeah, there's one that we've done before that they did last year that they're doing again coming up for called Heroes to Heroes, where they auction off. They do like live art streams, and then they auction off comics and art and cards and all this stuff that people have donated, and then all the money gets donated to these veterans charities.
Right. Oh, there's another one that's called Heroes for what's the one that Steve Borak talks about? He's always mentioning the Heroes Initiative. That's a different one, right? The Hero Initiative.
Yeah, Heroes Initiative is a different one. It's great in the community that there's so many in the community that are willing to do all of this stuff to help others.
Correct. I agree. And so so let's just have at it with the label conversation. I want to start with an example, and then I'll talk about some of the things that I've talked about, and we'll just bring this Venom card back up again,
which is awesome. I love it.
I love this card so much, dude. I really do. I love this card. And if PSA was not a card grading company and there were two other leaders in the space, and someone said they're going to start a new card grading company, and this is the label that they showed you, you would say, what the heck are you guys doing? Because a lot of people call this like a prescription label, a prescription medicine label, or a library, those filing.
Oh, yeah.
Cards.
An evidence ticket or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That stuff, right? And I agree with all that criticism. It's a very simple, to the point, it's not designed to put an X-Men character on it, it's designed to be information. And of course, red is their brand, and that's their logo. Now, we've become used to this over the years. But my point is, if this were a new grading company, and this is what they showed you as their entry into the space, people would be really critical of it. They'd be like, what are you guys thinking, right? But the point that I'm making is, this label, in fact, not even as nice a looking version of it, 3 iterations ago when it first started, was a new card company coming onto the scene, competing with the existing ones. And now they are the leader with this label. They didn't need a design on it. They didn't need different colors. It's their label, it's their brand, and it's what they do. And it has succeeded for them. So if you take that same ideology and bring it into comic books, well, that's what they're looking to do. They're not looking to emphasize making the prettiest label, although they're not opposed to making one that the community would have liked more. They're more focused on the other elements of being a comic book grader, which I think is a good idea. Now, the first iteration of the label we saw, a lot of people didn't like it, and there were a lot of conversations about what to change, and a lot of changes were made. So we've moved away from the PSA logo being in the center. We have a red block with the PSA logo off to one side, shifting the balance. We haven't seen that before in anything that PSA had ever offered. And so that's a design change. Now, the things that we are naturally not going to get away from is red. Red is their brand color. Yes, everybody thinks comic book grading is supposed to be blue, but that's because we're used to 2 companies offering blue labels as their universal. That's not because Marvel says comic books are blue. That's just what we're used to. And PSA saying, well, we're PSA, and we're used to being PSA. And we're still going to tell you that this is a universal grade, but we don't think it has to be blue. That's what PSA is saying. And I respect that, because they're coming in saying, listen, we're not following the lead. We're starting something brand new here and advancing. So we're not getting away from the red. I support it. The other thing is the typeface that they use. A lot of people want, a more playful font or a bolder font, and I can see a better looking label being more creative. You can try all kinds of things in the world of design to appeal to people more, but they wanted to stick with their font. It is their own font. It's unique to them. It was created for them. And quite frankly, they like the fact that it's serious and kind of just delivers information. So there are certain things that we knew weren't going to change, but there's certain criticisms that they absolutely took into consideration. And there were more iterations than what the public has seen, but I have seen them. And I like where we've gotten. And it's also important to remember that where we are isn't the end all be all. You know, not a single grading company started with the iteration of the label that they're at now. So why would we think that's going to happen with PSA? The point is, we got to start grading books. We got to get to market. We got to start developing the business, improve and learn as we go. And that's the idea that they're approaching with. You know, we talked about it. A lot of people will wait and wait for perfection and never put out the product. Well, PSA said, we've done enough. We've played with it enough. Let's put out the product. We'll improve later if we want to. Let's get grading. That's one of the most important things here. And so
this is what it looks like too. I think this is the one they're rolling out with now.
Correct.
So
Absolutely
I don't think it's terrible. I actually didn't mind the PSA when they had it, you know, the one iteration where they had it kind of in the center towards the bottom, but I don't mind this label. It's you know, you could compare it to CGC or CBCS, and yeah, it might look a little plain compared to them, but I think it's a decent looking label. I wouldn't get a book back with that and go, oh my God, I can't display this. I think, you know, I like it.
I agree with you. I like it too.
Yeah, from my perspective, it looks okay. It might take the hardcore collectors a little bit to get used to if it does look different.
Happening. Yeah.
But I mean, once it's out there and they're rolling with it, you know, I was really adverse to getting a PGX slab just because of their situation and stuff like that. But if I find a book that's very cheap that hey, I want this book, I'm going to buy that PGX slab and hang on to it, you know, for whatever reason.
And
is there going to be too with the label? Are they going to do different colors like the other grading companies? Like, here's the universal label, here's signature series. This is what it is if it's restored. You know, this is what it is. You know, for that, like, you know, because we got
I know what you're asking.
Yellow, red, green, purple. We got almost the whole damn rainbow.
There's even a gray one that we don't often see. The gray one, I think, is for conserved books, maybe. There's some like unique scenario that gets a gray label that we never see, but I think it exists from CGC.
That's not the pedigree one, is it? That's not the pedigree.
No, pedigree is like a gold one. They give you a nice goldish bronze one.
Right.
Yeah, the pedigree one looks nice.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I mean, listen, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. That the yellow label with the black bar that says JSA, when you get a JSA, that looks good too.
It does.
That black bar looks good.
It does look nice.
I have a few of those too, yeah.
None of us I've never said CGC's label doesn't look good. I said their case isn't secure. That's what I've said. You know, my criticism was never their label, right? So credit where credit's due. But no. So I'm gonna double back to what you said. But Dan, all their labels are going to be red, and if there's something to notate, whether it's conserved, restored, qualified, there's a space above the grade where it's simply going to be written what it is, and then the details of the restoration or whatever are going to be found when you look up the cert number, when you scan the QR code, and some of it might actually be printed on the back side of the label. But on the front, you're going to see the identifier above the grade. And if you don't see an identifier above the grade, that means it's a universal grade. That means there's no stories here. It is graded, and there's the color.
I'm good with that.
The reasoning for that is CBCS does this as well. They don't do multiple colored labels because when you when you make a restored book a purple label, the reason it's called a purple label of death is because it's too identifiable.
Yeah.
No one wants a purple label, right? But that's because they gave it that bruise. They gave it this marking of negativity. But you actually don't have to. Information needs to be conveyed so that the buyer can make an educated decision. But you don't have to make a decision in a split second based on the purple label. Grab the book, read the information, make a decision. These aren't split-second decisions.
It's funny, too, because back in the day before grading, restoring books was not frowned upon. Restoring books was actually looked at as something, oh yeah, I got this book, I got this, this Grail book, and it was kind of beat up, but I had it restored, and look how nice it is now. Be like, oh man, people would pay more for it then. And then the grading comes, and then, like you said, they give it that other color label, and it kind of, it gives it this like scarlet letter feel where people started looking down on restored books. But what is it, like you took a book and you made it look better than it did. It's still the book, you just touch it up here or there. It's funny how things change in the community. I will say, for the colored labels, I do like the yellow label for signature ones, because if you're looking at stuff, you can automatically see, oh, that's an autographed book. Like you might not know who it is, but right away you're like, that's an autographed book.
Let me see who that is.
And it is going to be interesting to see once the signature stuff rolls out, if they do some unique separation for a signed book, because they very well may. And so, because I remember recently, in the card side of things,
No, got a sale. We got a sale. We got a sale.
No, I apparently I had a reminder running, but the reminder sounded off like a timer rather than a reminder, which is so interesting. I've never seen that before. I wonder what I did different. Anyway, what I was saying is, so in the card side of things, and I don't have many signed cards, or any, maybe. Well, maybe I do, but what they started doing is when a card is signed, the border's actually blue, which I'm only bringing up because it is different. Now, on comic books, do they do that? Do they go with well, I guess they wouldn't go with yellow, because we didn't mention, if you get a PSA 10 on a comic book, you actually get a gold foil border rather than a red border. It's an entirely different label. Forgot to mention that, right? So there's a little spice.
Like the gold, gold Venom Lethal Protector 1 instead of the red.
That's exactly right. Oh man, I actually have a lethal. I submitted some really cool books, so we'll talk a little bit about which books are already at PSA of mine, because I had the ability to submit early to help out the process, right? And in fact, I took them there in person. I said, you know what, guys? Yes, I could mail them, but I'd rather hop on a plane and drop these off. These are very special to me. So I went most recently. I enjoy visiting the facilities. It's an amazing facility. But a few weeks ago, I went just to deliver books in person. And I also took an AF-15, a 0.5 AF-15 for a friend of mine, to be the first AF-15 ever encapsulated by PSA, crossed over from CGC to PSA. I just got word back today. I haven't seen it yet, but I just got word back today that it did cross over, because I put a min grade on that submission of 0.5, because since they have a 0.3, I said, guys, if this is a 0.3, just give me the CGC 0.5 back. I don't want my friend's book to downgrade, right? And they were like, well, is it complete? I said, yeah, I think it's complete. And they were like, well, it's going to be a 0.5 then. I was like, okay, great. As long as a 0.5 goes to a 0.5, we'll put it in the PSA label. My friend loves PSA, and he wants to be the first AF-15. I think that's really cool. Not this. It is actually. And so I just got word back today that it did cross over, and that they said it looks beautiful. So I can't wait to see it. I haven't even seen it yet. They'll be using it in one of their posts, I assume, and I can't wait to see it. Right? Because it's really the first cool. AF-15, and so so back to the autograph label. I don't know if they're going to do something different with it. We'll see. But in terms of conserved or restored, that's going to be the same, but the details are going to be noted. And Sal, back to what you were saying about, like, it's just going to take some time. And it's only been a few weeks since people have seen the actual version of the label. And it's only been a couple days since more images are coming out. But already in the comment sections, I'm seeing, this is growing on me. I'm seeing that over and over. This is growing on me. And I think that's an important thing. Like, sometimes we just have to, there's something more important than labels here. And we all know that, but we react to the visual component first. Mm-hmm. But once you get to a point where you're like, you know what? I kind of get it. They don't want to be the gussied up label. Is that the word? Like for fancy? I think so, right?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even know what the heck that word means. I feel like I just said something offensive. I don't even know what it means.
What are you
What
letting
the
the
heck?
beaver out to play? Come on, this is not the 1950s. Come on.
That's true. That's true, right? Come on, what are we talking about here? And so but I love that I'm reading people say, yo, this is growing on me because I
Yeah,
think that's the effect it's going to have. And plus, let's be honest here. If one of your friends or a few of your friends start having PSA books, you're going to kind of want one or two as well. We in the collecting
I'm gonna
community
send some
get
off right now.
influenced.
Oh yeah, monkey see,
Exactly.
monkey do.
Yeah, dude, FOMO is real, man.
Right.
It just
So
happens, right?
yeah, so I mean when EGS that I'm not sure if you heard of them.
EGS.
They have
No,
the
no, of course. Yeah,
customizing
yeah.
label, and
Yeah.
I sent some books off to them, and they graded it pretty accurately from what I could tell.
Good, good.
So which was good. We interviewed the CEO, and he was a nice guy. He
Fantastic.
does all the grading himself, which I think kind of bottlenecks things, and it
Sure.
gives Dan and I were talking about this earlier. Dan made a very good point. It doesn't let them grow, because if it's all going through him, they're not going to be
Yeah.
able to expand or take any market space. That's neither here and there or there. We were just talking, but the customizing of the label was actually pretty cool. And I got,
Right.
I had a Darth Vader book, which was mostly black and red, and I had that label go black and red as well, like a gradient level of black and red, and
Mm-hmm.
it just fits with the book. And it's like, wow, that's an amazing piece to display,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
People just have to get used to it. It doesn't really, it's similar to how CGC does theirs, as far as the setup and the details and the grade, blah blah blah. It's similar, but it's still different, and it makes it more unique, in my opinion. So this new
Yeah.
label coming out with PSA, I think it would be more of the same. It's going to be its own brand. It's going to be this uniqueness on itself, which by where you're talking, I could tell PSA is going to be able to take a chunk out of this market or force the other competitors to do something special, maybe cut their prices down, maybe speed up their turnaround time. I don't know. It's what they've got to come out now and say, okay, well, we've got to do something. Two people have a Toyota on sale, two car dealerships, they have the same Toyota on sale. How are they going to get you in business? They got to do something to get your business, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
so they're going to, something's got to happen. And PSA, I think, has that arm strength to force that hand. They're not bluffing. They're not bluffing. They've got something in their hand.
I mean, if the grading is on point, the label looks decent. It's all going to come down. And of course, it's always, for this community, it's always going to be about, well, I can get this much for a 9-point CGC. What can I get for, a 9.8 for this? And it's also going to come down to the quality of the case too. Like we were talking about earlier, you were the one that, that put the looking at different posts and saying, wait a minute. And you were the one that found, that major CGC scandal that all came down to cracking the cases and switching the books out and resubmitting them and stuff like that. So, I'm expecting that's something that PSA spent a lot of time and research on, is how do we make a case that looks good but is also secure too.
Sure. Yeah.
The number one focus was case security. Because it was the number one concern beyond the pretty stuff. It's the number one concern for collectors is the book safe? Is this the book that was actually originally encapsulated? Can you open and reseal this slab? You cannot open this slab. In terms of, look, the new CBCS slabs are amazing. There are quality freaking slab. This even takes that up a couple notches. It is heavier than the competition. It is more solid than the competition. It's made out of a higher grade plastic than I don't even know if it's called plastic. It's a polycarbonate, I think is the name. I'm not a, materials person, but I think that's what the material is. And also it's the only one from any of the people in the space that offers a high degree of UV protection and UV reflectiveness. It's 99% UV reflective just because of the material used, but with a word of caution, that does not mean put your PSA slab in the sunlight every single day. Everything will get affected by sunlight over time.
But there's no Newton rings.
No, unfortunately, they haven't been able to combat Newton rings on the PSA slabs yet. Some of the early submissions have encountered Newton rings. And the issue for that does have to do with the material, does have to do with the way their inner well works with their encapsulation process. And it has been a bit of a pain in the butt. So, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are some Newton rings and they're already popping up and people are already noticing them. And they're trying to figure out a fix. Now, CGC they're not completely eliminated. There's still Newton rings out here, but CGC has improved their situation with Newton rings. But in doing so, and I won't harp on it too much, they may have introduced a different failure point to the protection of the book, because the way that you eliminate a Newton ring is by making sure the top surface of the inner well doesn't meet the bottom surface of the outer case. Where the plastics meet is where you get that weird oil stain looking thing. So if you have a thinner inner well with a little bit of wiggle room, well, then you're not going to get Newton rings. But wiggle room can lead to other issues.
Yeah.
CBCS, from what I hear, and I don't have too many CBCS slabs, so I can't really speak super knowledgeably here, which is what I would prefer to do, so I'll keep it loose. From what I'm told, CBCS hasn't had Newton rings in a while, or doesn't at all.
I can attest to that because I have a lot of CBCS books, and
Yeah.
I've not seen a Newton ring with them at all.
So what they have figured out, I assume the engineers at PSA will soon figure out, but I don't think CBCS is going to tell them the secret, you know?
Oh, no.
And so,
No, they're not.
so
They're not sharing that.
Nah, they're not sharing that because that's pretty key. So they'll figure it out, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it at the moment. Even my submissions that are there now, I may end up seeing Newton rings when they come back in. But for the greater good of what we're doing here, I'm fine with that for the time being. I think we'll find a solution as we go, you know, but they haven't been able to solve that one entirely yet. But the case itself is solid. And also, there's 3 cases. You have now, because when they first put out the prototype, the number one criticism was, this is bigger and taller and wider than a CGC slab, so it doesn't fit in my CGC boxes, in my slab boxes. And that really annoyed everyone, to be honest.
Yeah,
and so,
that would be, yep.
Yeah, so right away, they were like, no, we can't ignore this, and we need a normal size slab. I mean, I call it normal, but let's say industry standard size slab, right? And so they did. So they re-engineered your basic slab, which majority of the books are going to be encapsulated in that slab, and it is the same height and width as CGC and CBCS, and it's stackable with those other companies. So there you go, fix that. That prototype size, the slightly larger one, some golden age books have to go into that slab.
Yeah.
But a lot of golden age books will be able to go into the standard. They'll just take up a larger cutout on the inside, same way CGC does it, right? A golden age book kind of fills up the entire slab, but the slab dimensions externally are the same. But that middle size slab is going to be reserved for when it's absolutely necessary, or if someone wants their book in the larger, heavier slab. Like if they want the fortress level protection, they can opt into it. And then, of course, there's the magazine size slab, which I have not had the pleasure of handling yet, but I'd imagine that is going to be a chunky holder, you know, because it has to be, it's so big.
Well, there's also, you know, I mean, comic-wise, there's all that DC Black Label stuff. There's the old Marvel graphic novel ones that are all that, you know, that size, I guess, would go in the magazine size one.
Perhaps so. No, please.
Oh, no, I was going to say one thing I saw, too, that already I saw people talking about CGC already making a change is the name of, you know, where they had the CGC registry, that they've changed the name of it because PSA said, well, here's what we're going to call it. And CGC changed their name, too. Like, wow, that's pretty early in the game to already be making a change like that. It's not a good look for you.
It's not, dude. I'm so glad you said that, because if we just think about it, PSA took nothing from CGC. They didn't imitate the labels, you know, and originally they wanted not even to imitate the size of the case, right? So they took nothing from CGC, and also they changed the grading scale. So literally, they're forging their own path, confident in themselves. Meanwhile, the first thing CGC does in response to PSA coming is borrow something from PSA. The first thing they do.
It may end up being too that, the one thing that CBCS had going for itself, like I said, for a long time was they had the signature verification that CGC didn't. I see the one thing that, that will keep CGC holding on for a while, unless PSA starts getting into it, is CGC does all of those in-house signings and all of those things that they constantly are having, and they're having like top creators come in and do these too. That I've never really seen CBS. They'll CBCS, like they'll do them, but they don't, do them on the level that CGC does. Do you, does PSA have any plans to do some that to do something with that going forward?
Yep, it's so woven into the fibers of comic book collecting to want to have an artist signature, a writer's signature. Like it's part of what we do with our collectibles, and PSA is completely aware of that. And PSA is already in the world in a limited capacity of doing, athlete signings, having the private signing events, and I guess we could call them signature series events. I'm not sure if that's exactly the name that they use. I don't think so. Maybe it is. But they've done that. And in the realm of TCG and these trading card games and stuff like that, they've also had creators and signing events for that. So naturally, I think over time, as they develop the signature side of it out and start to really understand what their position in this market's going to be and what it means to go to comic book conventions all the time and represent not just the brand, but comic books, I do think they're going to explore that. And I would not be surprised if we start seeing things like that happen. I mean, Elizabeth has said it as well, but one of the things we might not see exactly duplicated will be like, when you go to a convention, you could grab like a witness and go have your book signed. PSA may or may not go into that territory. I'm not saying they won't. I don't know if they will. They might go more into the idea of the controlled signing events rather than having a witness follow you around. So that might be one difference.
The fanny pack with the little baggies.
Right. But to answer the question, they are absolutely thinking about it, absolutely working on it. And I don't know anything for sure or a timeline, but I don't think any of us will be surprised if maybe early next year, maybe something like that happens, Oh, who knows? I pulled that number. I pulled that out of my ass completely. Like I have no idea when it's going to happen, but I know that is on the table. And I don't see too many reasons for them to not continue to explore it.
Mm-hmm. Right. As for the, in my opinion, for the with the witnesses that you grab going around in cons, I think that's going to go away because CGC has the JSA verification. So what's the really difference between a witness and a JSA verification signature?
Well,
it's the work, I guess, because it's the witness is like, I saw them do this, and there's that as opposed to like, okay, we have to have someone actually examine it.
But that's still, I mean, but at the end of the road, they're both the same signature. They're both, if JSA says yes, that's a Chris Claremont signature, and the witness said, oh yeah, I saw him sign that book. What is really the difference?
I'll tell you, Sal, and I want to know what you think about what I'm about to say.
All right.
I feel strongly about this. I want to know where it sits with you. A signature being authenticated / verified after the fact, meaning unwitnessed, is still an opinion. A signature being witnessed is a fact, and that is a difference. It's like human beings can be wrong. Oh, that's it. I just meant to say human beings can get it wrong. And in fact, JSA has gotten it wrong a lot. And I'm going to lead into a story in just a moment. Dan, what were you saying?
I was going to say, like I've told you, and because I am a CGC verified artist, which, because there's a guy that buys sketch covers from me, but he only will buy them if they're graded because he does these mystery boxes that high grade mystery boxes he puts them in. But as I found out as a verified artist that when I draw the stuff and send it in, and I think I sent you a copy of like, hey, here's what the form looks like that's different than the regular one.
Yeah, I do. I remember our conversation. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you fill it out and you're saying, yes, I drew this. Yes, I signed it on this date, and you send it in, but it's not going through the JSA authentication.
They're taking your word for it.
I say, I did this, but I can't see why I would necessarily want to lie about it, but it is one of those things where they're just taking your word for it that, okay, yeah, this guy said that he did it, and so he did it.
Look, if we're getting into the nitty gritty and we're being really honest about the signature side of CGC, there are a lot of holes in their system, and there is a lot of fraud that takes place. There are people that have the power to sign off and say, yes, I witnessed these, or these took place here, and they lie. They're books that are supposed to be signed at a controlled environment with a number of people watching, and the event runs late, and people take the books home, sign them, and act as though it happened at the location, right? That's all a lie. And so that is a problem. And I just don't talk about it that often because, like, what the heck am I going to do? It's not that big of a scandal. It's just a thing that we know is kind of broken in the system. I think my favorite form of a signature is a in-house signature series event where we know that it took place. There's even footage of it taking place because CGC is making reels about it and stuff like that. That's my favorite one. The other ones, they have chance for fraud. But the JSA thing, although I'm sure they get it right more often than they don't, they certainly get it wrong, from time to time. And again, it's just an opinion. I am of the belief that an opinion should be valued a bit less than something that was witnessed, meaning a signature series event, because that's with a degree of certainty. And then it also comes with a nice bonus of you get the date that the thing was signed, right? When you send a JSA book in, that thing could have been signed last week or 179 months ago. Like, you don't know, and they don't have any way of knowing either. But one of the things, this is a bit of an unfortunate story, not a story. I'm not going to get into the whole story. Maybe you guys have caught the headline. This became a big headline yesterday, and it's going to be much bigger. More news is coming out. This doesn't have anything to do with CGC. It has to do with signatures, and it has to do with signatures getting authenticated. So maybe you've heard the largest scandal in signed memorabilia and sports cards has just been found out. $350 million over very many years, and millions of items, and a handful of people responsible. But let me tell you how bad this gets. Millions of fraudulent signatures have entered the marketplace. There's these things called auto pens. I guess you can program them to imitate. So that was already a big conspiracy, a big controversy a while ago. This makes that pale in comparison, because also these individuals, they found a way to duplicate exactly the certification stickers. Before JSA was in-house at CGC, JSA used to put a holographic sticker on your thing, and say they certified it. Even PSA DNA back in the day used to do that, right? PSA is not named in the stuff, though, so let me not put their name in it. Rewind. PSA is not part of this thing. JSA certainly is, and some other companies are part of this as well, where these individuals were master forgers using technology, and master forgers imitating the holograms, and were selling products not only into the open market, but also they were the wholesalers of these products going into Panini, sports card releases, and all of that. Man. So from the most official distribution sources, fake products from this group of people have been distributed, and many of these items get certified and verified and authenticated by JSA and this and that and the other, right? Because you didn't see it happen, but you believed someone told you it was real because it looked real. Now, here's how, I'll only touch on this for a second, but here's how severe this situation is. The FBI raided the facility after someone basically put out all the information. So I don't know the whole story, but somebody fell out with the people and decided to just throw everyone under the bus. Gave all the names, gave all the details. FBI raids the facility, and they found a dead body in there with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So someone either knew it was coming and couldn't deal with the repercussions, or they were maybe, I don't know the details, maybe they were the person that put the information out and said, well, if I'm going down, fuck it, I'm burning this whole place down. And after he did what he did, I guess it's a bad situation. But that's how serious this was, that somebody commit suicide over it. It's not a small situation.
Wow. I hadn't heard of that. I'm gonna have to look that up, man.
You're gonna hear a lot about it. It's big. It just started kind of spreading yesterday. Neo has a video on it. Dan the Cardman has a video on it. But this is going to become very widespread. People that normally, though, Neo creates content about things that happen in our community. People that never speak on anything are speaking on this. Insiders are speaking on this because this turns a lot of things upside down. And I bring it up only because we were talking about the legitimacy of autographs.
Right.
Man.
Understood. That's crazy.
It's nuts, man. And it's nuts.
So let me circle back to the one more thing, Dan. Let me just circle back to your points on that. I agree with you. The person that's witnessing is a little bit higher rated value than the person that's verified.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Because you got some chance of mistakes at that end as well. I mean, not to say there's no chance of mistakes at the other end, like you are. But I can see the point where the witnessing of it is rated higher than the verification afterwards. So
I was just at a small convention the other day, going through, flipping through boxes. There's a guy there talking to the vendors, and he was saying, "Hey, I just got certified as a CGC witness and they're like, "Oh man, that's really cool." He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be in Baltimore." And they're like, "Oh man, well we'll come get you when if we're getting stuff autographed, we'll come get you." And he's like, and I'm saying they're just flipping through books, and he's just like, "No man, you don't have to do that. Just get them signed, just bring them to me. I'll sign off on them." Wow. Now, I don't know, maybe and these guys knew each other, so maybe they, I don't know them, so the seller, I've seen him at a couple local conventions. So, I don't know if they, have that trust in them that it's like, he knows that they're not going to bring him anything fake and, they have that. But still, I'm flipping like, wow, what if they just.
That's something you don't want to hear.
Up at home.
Yeah.
Like, here's a stack.
Yeah.
Those two individuals may have a relationship, but if the end buyer of the product ever found out that it's a lie, that it was actually, witnessed, they're not going to care how much their relationship is important to them. They want the things to happen by the book. There's the controls are not in place, right? Like they're not scientific about this. This is just kind of willy-nilly, let's do it, and customers don't know any better, and so it's fine. And that's not the greatest way to go about things. So that is not how PSA will be doing it, I'd imagine. But we'll see if they go the witness. I don't know if they're going to go the witness route. I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're going to try to keep it as controlled as possible, especially with this whole autograph scandal hitting the scenes. Now they're going to be even more careful about any autograph situations.
Well, what about like an artist account? Like I said, I have the one through CGC because, and the guy that buys the books, from me only wants them if they're great. Yeah, most of the guys, all the guys on Codex here, I've done sketch covers and given them to them like for Christmas or whatever. Some of them, Sal, Gary, some of them have wanted me to send them and get graded. Do you know if PSA is going to have anything? Like if I got a stack of sketch covers behind me that I've been working on, if I were to send one of those in tomorrow and say, here's the sketch cover. My name's Dan. I drew it. Do they have, or will they have something set up for artists that can send their stuff in like that to get graded?
So the interesting thing about that, because it is the natural next question, is that even though they've been in the autograph space for a very long time, they've never been in the art space. An athlete doesn't make a drawing of something on a card, and they've dabbled in that a little bit in the TCG stuff where someone signing something might make a sketch, but again, it's in a controlled scenario, so they don't have to verify. They know that it happened. So this is going to be the first time they're entering into the space where the entire cover of an item is art from an artist. And if that artist isn't on their, artist list, like if they don't have the relationship with the artist, how could they ever verify like they would an autograph? So this is something that they don't know if they're going to get into yet or how they're going to get into it. This is absolutely brand new to them and they're completely learning. So I don't know what to expect from that side of things. We're just going to have to find out as they figure it out, because this is the first time they've ever had to give any thought to anything like a sketch cover. They've never had to think about that before.
Well, Gary always says he does a Swamp Thing one I did for him. and because that's one of his favorite characters, and he'll hold up and be like, "It was a one of one." So what you said about your friend's Amazing Fantasy 15, it's going to be the first one on their. I don't know what it's not registry they're calling it. What is it?
Population report.
It's going to be the first one on that population report. So I'm sitting here thinking like, all right, what do I have that's A, worth grading, but B, unique enough that if I send it in, since they just started doing this, that I might have the first one that's on there, because that's always something that's, that would be kind of cool. Like, you're the first. And, how that one thing I've, talked with Sal about and others about for a while, get your opinion on it. Mm-hmm. One thing I'm interested in is when people talk about the CGC registry, and you mentioned it earlier with the Ultimate Fallout, there's this many of them on there graded 9.8 and this, that. I'm like, but if you say there's 9,000 of this book graded at this, how many actually are there though? Because you could have someone have something graded, and I've seen Sal do it. You have the book and it's graded, you crack the slab, you take it to convention, and you get it signed, and then it's graded again. So it's then still on the registry with the original number and the original grade, and now it's on the same book as on the registry again, for a
signature section.
Or people will just get it and be like, I think this get a better grade, crack it, press it, or crack it and just resubmit it, hope it for another grade. So then it's the same book that's getting on the registry multiple times for the exact same book. So I've kind of said that for a while, like how accurate is the actual registry?
It's flawed.
There's no way for them to really do it.
There's no way to do. I mean, I have maybe 40. Well, in that pile, maybe like 15. But in this room, I have between 40 and 50 labels of books that are still on. I'm just going to call it a census, even though they are now calling it a population report. Yeah. I'm still just going to call it the census because that's how I refer to CGC census, and over time I will adapt. But when I refer to PSA, I always call it a population report, because in PSA we call everything a pop. If there's this many tens, we call it a pop 9 because there's 9 tens. Anyway, I have just in this room dozens of labels for books where the cert numbers are still on the census, but those books are now encapsulated with an entirely different cert number. So each of these books that have labels for are represented twice on the census. Now, what you're supposed to do is mail them back the label so they can wipe it off of the census. The amount of people that mail back their label is probably 0.5% or less than the amount of people that actually crack it out and just resubmit. We're worried about the grade getting a bump. We're not worried about the label getting back to CGC. Yeah. Now, for super rare books, it is actually in my benefit to a large degree to give them the label back. Like if there's a book that there's only 5 or 6 on the census, and let's say the 7.0, I've turned into an 8.5. So there's still only 5 or 6. Let's say there's 5, and one of them I've now turned into a higher grade. It's showing 6, but there are in fact only 5. When the book has such a small amount in existence, each one affects the value a lot. So for books like that, it absolutely serves me to send it in, but I've still been lazy and I've neglected to do so. But I just tell people, I'm like, oh, no, that 7.0 doesn't exist anymore. Here's the label for it. Trust me, it doesn't exist anymore. So I manually tell people when I'm selling the stuff, but it's not represented on the census. For larger books, let's just take Ultimate Fallout 4, for example, 19,500 total graded, thousands of that might not be an exaggeration, but at least I won't say thousands because I don't have too much confidence in that word for what I'm about to say. Hundreds of those have been cracked out and resubmitted, right? So because I've cracked out many UF4s, and the reason for that is a lot of UF4s were sent into CGC still polybagged, right? Because less advanced sort of like like the people that aren't really in the weeds with this stuff, that are just kind of casual graders, they might think, and this is no knock on anyone, this is a common thought until you realize otherwise. You learn through experience, right? That, it's in a poly bag, it must be perfect, right? Like, it's good. So they
Never been
send it
touched
in the
by human hands.
exactly right. So they send it in, and all CGC does is cut it out of the poly bag and grade it as is and throw your poly bag away, right? It's not like they're going to take care of the book for you or improve it. And so all the Ultimate Fallout 4s that have ever been in a poly bag for any number of time or stacked or tightly in a box, they have a up and down, indentation with the poly bag crease. And you get an automatic 8.0 or an 8.5 for that full traveling non-color breaking line. So how many of those have I bought, pressed, and turned into 9.6s and 9.8s? I couldn't even tell you. But each one of those 8.0, 8.5s that I cracked out are still on the census. I didn't send those labels back.
Yeah.
And
My
those
9.8, the case on it broke, and I sent it in, and I took, and it was still in the well, but the actual case broke. So I just taped the label on there and sent it in, and they sent it back as a 9.4. Like, there's nothing, the case broke. There's nothing that happened in the book. It didn't get bent. It's still sealed in the well. Because I looked at it before I sent it to make sure, like, all right, looking like, there's no ticks, there's no bends or anything. So,
really,
that didn't work out real well for me. And I told you about the, all the nonsense with the stack of sketch covers that I sent. And one of them was for him. It was a Transformers one I did for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
which is awesome, by the way. I love that book.
And I'm glad you dig it. But I had them packed really well, and I made the mistake. I did not take a picture of the packing before I sent it in, and they sent me the thing. Oh yeah, it was damaged in shipping, and all the books were put together, in the bag of boards, put together, and then painters taped around so that they wouldn't shift around in there, so it would be one thing. And wow, it's interesting that the corners are all damaged in the same way, in the same place. I'm like, can you send me a picture of the box it came in so I could see that? Oh no, we didn't take pictures of that. Yeah, you opened it up and you dropped it.
Yeah.
So the books I have with them now, I took pictures every step of the way. Here's the pictures of the books front and back. Here's them taped together. Here's them with these corner guards that I made with bubble wrap, with all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
It's unfortunate. It happens too often, and sometimes they'll admit it, and sometimes they won't. And even when they do admit it, they make you fight to get some sort of fair compensation back, because the first thing they offer you is the value difference from what it might have graded versus what it's going to grade now in credit, which is just such a shit compensation. It's like, oh great, you're giving me exactly. Oh, I now have the privilege of buying something else from you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like, nonsense, man. And from the business side, I get it. Like, that's the greatest way to compensate someone, is to give them a permission to come back and do more business with you. It makes perfect sense. But from the buyer side, it's like you get shit on twice. It's not nice. And you really gotta fight to get compensated in a different way. And the truth is, most people don't fight like that. Most people do not like a negotiation. Most people don't like a confrontation. They take the first offer and they go about their business. I'm not that guy. I'm going to fight you until you're going to hate me if you're not being fair with me. I'm just that sort of person.
Right.
Unless it's a waste of my time. Unless we're talking about $5 or $10 and I got better shit to do. Well, then, screw you. To take the credit, I don't even have to use it. Shove it up your own ass. I don't give a shit. I'm out of here. But when it matters, with the scandal, hundreds of thousands of dollars were paid out. And CGC doesn't know this, but they thought, anyway, CGC thought they were getting emails from the customers, right? But I was actually writing the negotiating emails for the customers to help them get more money. And I tell you, it worked, but it was very difficult. I'm talking about offers that started at 7,000, ultimately getting 14,000. Offers that started at, we will replace all your books, turning into a $50,000 check and replacing the books that are impossible to put a value on, right? Like, crazy negotiations had to take place in order for people to get made whole, because the first offers that were given were, you have to be a fool to take this sort of thing. It's like if you're an artist and you're going to get a record deal, the record company's like objective is to own as much of you for as little as possible, right? That's their job. And negotiating the contract is your job. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know how to do that. And that's the position that CGC takes, is we're going to give you the shit offer. And if they take it, great. If they don't, fine. We'll bend a little bit until they stop crying, right? And I don't think everyone realized that everything's a negotiation. You know, there is no, or our policy is this. You guys don't even adhere to your policies when it comes to grading books. So I'm not going to buy into it. It's our policy to give you credit. No. I'm not happy. We have to figure out something better. But most people don't like that kind of fight because it's uncomfortable. I get it. You know, so I fought that fight for a few people. I fought that fight for a few people, and it was my pleasure to do so because I think it was right. And I was happy to see that people got more money than they would have if it weren't for a couple of back and forths in the emails.
Right.
You know,
good on you for doing that too, man. I didn't realize you were doing that as well. So that's awesome.
I appreciate it, man. I felt really good about it. I still feel really great about it. And you know, what's in return for it for me is that people appreciate it. Like, you know, it's freaking awesome, right? Like the guys and gals that I help, you know, they appreciate it, and that's a reward. You know, it's like I have a relationship with them, I have a friendship with them. They're happy that I helped. I'm happy to have helped. The community is improved because of it, and many people now realize, wow, everything is a negotiation. You know, you don't have to just bend over, and I think that's important for people to know. So it was absolutely my pleasure to help. Plus, like, you know, I kind of made that my mission. You know, I was like, no, we're going to expose this thing. And we're going to go hard, and we're going to make sure we talk about it for a long time because it needs to be. We're going to force CGC to make changes. And when it's time to pay out, we're not going to settle for a bunch of credit.
Man. Well, because when he was on the show with you, you know, what did he say? He's like, oh, we're going to start opening up, you know, the submission where you can screen, or, you know,
9 pre-screen,
9 9s and 10s. And it's like, you're in the middle of this interview where you're talking about this, this conspiracy, or, this, thing that you're going through. And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, well, here's this other thing we're doing. Like, it's immediately deflecting. And then, what was the award that he said?
The Hobby Hero Award.
Hobby Hero Award. Yeah. Do you have that framed in there?
I mean, it came. I have it. It's not on display. It's just put away. But I
think you
do
should have it graded. I think you should have it graded.
I would have PSA graded. I would have PSA graded by Hobby Hero Award.
There you go.
Yeah, they're in the middle of of this major story, and it's all of a sudden, oh, we're going to deflect. We're going to do this, and it seems like that's CGC's thing because, and maybe PSA, will take this chunk from them, but. All these people complain about CGC, and yet they still keep sending their books to them, and still have them as the leader. And it's, all of the, one after another. There was that thing. There was the one with the husband and the wife that were there. There's, the banana thing with the
which is still going on. By the way, people just don't talk about it enough. Yeah.
Yeah, with the inner well, and it's like one thing after another, and nothing seems to. To really affect their business. So hopefully hopefully PSA will, be doing a quality product that will force them to, to improve, or they'll suffer for it. Like you said, so comic wars, the only
grade wars. That's what Neil called it. Grade wars. Yeah.
Grade wars.
Yeah, the grade wars. We've entered that, and Dan, you're so right, because, like, yes, people want a better looking label. Fine, you want a label that you're used to. Fine, I get it, but let's not forget the book being encapsulated flat, accurately graded, and safe is the most important thing. All right.
Right.
So don't trade. Do whatever you want, but if you're literally buying CGC with a bent book and a faulty case because you like the label, what are you really doing here?
Yeah. You know what? You can buy. There's places on the internet you can go buy your own slabs, and you could print your own labels if you like. If you're doing it that much for the label, go buy a raw book, buy a case, copy the CGC logo, and put, Jimmy's grading service on there.
Yeah.
Jimmy's universal grade, and then just print that out and stick it in there. You'll save yourself a whole lot of money.
Yeah, for real, seriously. And give yourself whatever grade you want. Yeah.
I gave myself a 67 out of 10 on this one.
I love it. I want a 100-point scale, all right? I'm a 67 out of yeah, exactly. No, I agree. So I do think, though, the community definitely gets that. Yeah, I mean, dude, we're a passionate community, there's a bunch of us that are vocal. If we don't like a label, we're gonna yell about it, right? And since we get so loud when we don't like something, it kind of makes it feel like everybody feels that way, but that's not true. There's a lot of people that are very quiet, that don't want to be yelling on the comment section. They don't want to get into an argument with someone, and they're fine with the PSA label. They're just like, we need competition. They look at it from a reasonable perspective, and they don't, complain, or they're not expressively critical about stuff. And then you got, people like myself and some of our passionate friends where we like being heard when we have an opinion, and it makes it sound like a lot of people have that opinion, but it's just the vocal minority. I think the phrase is the vocal minority,
Right.
And but there's a lot of people that I speak to that aren't the type to speak publicly about anything, and they're just happy there's competition, quite frankly.
Well, I get the thing about the label, the aesthetics of it. Like, look, the truth is, when you have a comic, you buy it, you read it, for the story, the art, you enjoy it. Once you put it, people will call it plastic coffins or whatever.
Yeah.
Once you slab it, it no longer can fulfill the purpose that it originally had. Now it becomes a display piece. So part of the display is the label. A card, the front and the back, that's all there is to it. So even in a case, it's not changing the original purpose of it, other than it's going to be hard to stick in the spokes of your bicycle.
That's true. No, exactly right. That's true. Oh, that made me want to say something. You are right, though. I mean, I'm not discounting the fact that this is a visual space that we're in. People love displaying their comic books. I mean, once a comic book gets encapsulated, it's basically just a piece of art.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I'm not.
How many pieces of art do you own now, Sal?
Oh, I got like 320 some odd one slab.
A lot of art,
Yeah, I do.
And
I like it.
I love it, and it does matter how the label looks. But then there's the other side of grading as well, where it's about identifying a value on an item by accurately grading it, right? And of course, you want the best of both worlds. You want to be able to have the technical purpose of grading to be executed correctly, but you also want to have the visual component of it to be appealing for the collectors that like to display. And that's a challenging balance. And PSA obviously is leaning into the technical side rather than the sort of like dressed up display side. But with the reaction that I've seen from the community about it's growing on me, maybe it grows into a place where they learn to like the look of it. And so we'll have to wait and see. And maybe, again, there's other iterations. That reminds me about something. We touched on it a little bit. In conversation, it was mentioned, but we didn't turn it into a topic. But values, right? Third-party values. I like the notion that anything that happens in the short term, whether certain books sell for more than CGC, less than CGC, or the same, it doesn't matter. It's not definitive in the short term. The value thing, you have to look at data for a long time. Like I'm talking at least a year, right? We need PSA to become a something that everyone is aware of as a grading company. Because right now, only the people that pay attention to new news know that PSA is here. A casual collector walking through SDCC might not even have any idea that PSA is accepting submissions, right? We're the people that focus on the current events in our community. We're very much in our community. So it's going to take a lot of time before they're recognized as a grading brand on a sort of like mainstream scale, the way that people outside of the comic book world, they know that CGC is a comic book grading company. You could talk to collectors of coins and they know CGC, right? Because CGC has their coin grading system and they also know that they grade comic books. Those people, as coin collectors, probably have no idea that PSA has entered the comic book space. They only know that CGC grades comic books because they're a CG customer, the parent company. So there's going to be some time it takes before that customer, that person, becomes aware of the brand of PSA. So once that happens, once the household idea of them in the comic book space happens, then I think we can really start to use the data points as a metric to really understand if the values are holding up or if they're commanding less or more. So that's a long way of saying it's just going to take some time to find out. Like if a book underperforms in the next 2 weeks, that's not telling me anything, that's not real yet. That's just whatever it is.
Or it's going to take time for the books to get out and get into circulation.
It takes time, man. It takes time. You got to, and it's not just the grader selling it. It's also that person when they're done with it or they want to upgrade, when they put a price on it and sell it, right? A grader selling a book has a more likelihood of selling something for less than they would want because they have the margin to still make profit, right? But let's say you take a $25 book, you grade it, it's $250 now, right? Now, you don't need $250 for it to make a profit. You could sell it for $150. You're still going to make over $100, right?
Yeah.
So you might, but the person that pays the $100 or $150 for it, they're not going to sell it for $50 less because they're into it $150.
Yeah.
So they're going to, try to hold out for what they believe it to be worth because they have more in it. So, like you said, over time, the people that actually have more skin in the game are the people that are going to define the values, not the people that have massive equity that could afford to cut half the price just to move the product. Those people are going to do whatever just to move product. It's the secondary market that really determines what values are going to hold because they are not going to want to sell it for cheap. So
you mentioned the skin in the game and the value of it. One thing I find interesting with this that we hadn't talked about with all of this with PSA is their prices for everything. And comparing CGC's prices with PSA, you'd think with PSA being the new kid in town, like, hey, we're launching this, they would be cheaper. You look at their prices compared to CGC and it's more expensive. CGC is what, $27 for a modern book. PSA is $30 for it. CGC for a vintage is $42. PSA for a vintage is $45. So it's not a lot more price wise, but they are charging more per book. Now the turnaround, so CGC, you would send it a modern book, $27, and you get it back in 30 days, where PSA says it's 30 and you get it back in 20 days. So you're paying a couple bucks more, but you're getting it back a little faster. Or for the vintage CGC, it's 42 and 35 days. PSA, it's 45, and they say it's 30 days for you to get it back. And then, I made a little thing with like all of the prices and, and going through PSAs across the board is either equal to CGC for price or more expensive, but have that little bit faster turnaround time. And I'm presuming that's because that will adjust over time, that they're looking at it thinking, all right, we're not going to have the volume at first that CGC might have on a regular. I'm not sure, but I find it interesting that they're entering the space at a higher price point when you would think they would get a lower price point to get people in and then raise it afterwards.
Right. And that is absolutely, a thought that I've heard illustrated by intelligent people. Like, why wouldn't you come in at a lower price point being the new kid on the block? And I'm going to provide some insight as to some of the, the things that I am privy to. And there's some, reasons that I'm probably not aware of. Now, I haven't memorized their price sheet, but I do believe what you said is accurate. Most of the prices are either on par or maybe after the promotional rate ends, because currently there's a promotional rate, it's probably going to be a few bucks more, I think, than CGC. And
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
saying
not a
quote
lot.
me.
I just
It's not a
I
lot.
just pulled up both their sites and was just, made a little Excel sheet
Yeah.
because I'm a nerd and was like,
No.
here's the price for this, here's the price for this, turnaround times for what they had listed.
No. And it makes perfect sense to be like, well, why wouldn't you guys come in lower and really win over the market? And here's some of the thinking that's been communicated to me, makes sense to me, and then some stuff I don't know. But here's some of the thinking that I have is, or I've had and has been confirmed that it's been some of the thinking in the building there, is they want to represent a premium brand. And there's this psychology in just
Yeah.
market psychology, that you gotta hold your ground and command the respect, right? Coming in priced below, and Lawrence at Mighty Comics on his video about this said this. He articulated way better than I'm about to. But shout out to him and shout out to his perspective. If you come into a market priced underneath something, psychologically, subliminally, there is the idea of, do you think you're less? Do you think you're a
True.
lesser product? PSA is actually delivering a more valuable case. Like the actual material cost in the case is more valuable of a product than the CGC case. So that's just material fact. And then they want to represent themselves as a very quality service. They want to take pride in what they do. Now, it's not like they're going to take what CGC offers for 30 and they're going to offer it for 60. That would be absurd. But a couple of bucks more, perhaps that's where it stays. And it also, Ryan from Automatic Comics, he did a great job of adding some more perspective here. He was like, and dang, it actually ends up being maybe a little bit even more expensive than CGC, because I don't have a CGC membership anymore. I do not pay CGC for memberships. I let that thing lapse. I don't care. I know you can buy a $120 membership, get a $120 credit. I don't care. I'd rather have no membership. I don't use CGC all that often. And quite frankly, I don't even use my account, and the person's account that I use gets a discount. So I'm going to get the discount anyway. But the point that I'm making is, many people do have a paid CGC account, so they get that discount. But since people are unfamiliar with PSA's process, what they're not realizing, and what they're going to realize once they start getting involved in PSA and PSA has their email address and those emails start to come, PSA offers specials all the time, right? And PSA also offers multiple tiers where you could be a non-paying member, you could submit, or I guess that's a free membership, I assume. I have a paid membership now, so I don't remember the other categories. Or you do the paid membership, and there are certain benefits to that. You get other discounts that the non-paid promotions wouldn't get. And also, PSA, I don't have one handy. PSA also offers this great. They offer 2 magazines. So when you sign up for their membership, you get to choose whether you want sports or pop culture. And I elected to have the pop culture magazine. So every month, this really well-produced magazine shows up, and it's cool. And it also comes with a card. And they also do limited edition versions of the covers and the cards. No nonsense, bro. Like, people get the magazine, and if they pull the rare card, they put it on eBay for $300-400 right away.
Oh, wow.
Right away. And
You don't
so
send it to them to have them graded?
dude, CGC has graded PSA magazines, and now PSA is very happy that they finally get to grade their own magazines, because now they have a magazine slab.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And so,
it is.
and it's pretty cool. And those are pretty hard to get in 9.8 because they obviously ship in the mail,
Yeah.
like any magazine would. Mine come to me messed up because the way they get put into the box. But yeah, I'm reading them. I'm just enjoying them. But they're really a high quality publication, if you will. And I opted to have the pop culture one. I'm not much of a sports guy, but I'm very much a pop culture guy. So that's the one that comes to me monthly, and it's pretty dope. But I'm pretty sure there's probably. I wonder if they have more sports subscribers or TCG subscribers, because that TCG side of their business, Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, has become like the largest grading category.
Wow.
It's enormous. That market is
I believe it.
absurdly big.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. Pokemon is bigger than, like, when I talk about Marvel cards, there's like 1,000 people collecting Marvel cards, and then you talk about Pokemon. There's millions of people collecting Pokemon
Oh,
cards.
Al's got a
man.
whole room dedicated to Pokemon cards.
I do not.
I was about to say, do you really? Wow, layers
No,
to
I
you,
do
my
not.
friend.
He's just
Layers.
messing with you.
Pokemon cards and Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I like Howard the Duck. Howard the
Al
Duck.
hates
God.
Howard the
Not
Duck.
like Howard the Duck.
Oh, that's
I will
funny.
die on that hill. I will die on that hill. I do not like Howard the Duck.
That's funny. So you didn't enjoy those movies, huh? That's funny.
No, I did not.
That's
No, I
wow.
did not.
Were those late 80s or early 90s?
No, late 80s.
Late 80s. That was the first. That was the first theatrical Marvel movie. Was Howard the Duck.
Wait a second. Howard the Duck was a Marvel movie?
Yeah. Well, the first
Oh,
Marvel
yeah.
comic that was a theatrical movie was Howard the Duck.
Oh shit! I never thought about it that. I always thought about it like it was a movie first because I was a kid watching the movie. But it wasn't a movie first. It was a Marvel comic book called Howard the Duck before it was a movie.
Yeah, it was Steve
Yeah.
Gerber because he first appeared in Man Thing, and Steve Gerber created him, and then he had his own comic for a while, and then George Lucas made the Howard the Duck movie. But yeah, so there was Marvel stuff, like the old shorts that would run back in the day before movies, and they had the TV shows and TV movies. But Howard the Duck was the first theatrical movie made based on a Marvel character.
Amazing. I love that actually. I never thought of it that way. I'm a big fan of that. And I wanted to say, I forgot to say, I made a little note, but if I start hearing what they're doing in the world of art covers and sketch covers, if I hear something in advance, I'm gonna hit you up, right? Because I'm gonna be like, yo, this is the time. You might be able to be the first, So
Yeah,
if I
that would
see,
be that would definitely be pretty cool.
and so I'll just it's just gonna be a reminder for me if I end up hearing that in one of the conversations, then I'm gonna interject and be like, oh no, I got a friend that would want to participate, And so, but who knows when that's gonna happen? But I'll be keeping that in mind.
And then Dan, you'll be the first one to get an artist sketch in there. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can commission it from me, Sal.
There you
Sure.
go. You guys can share in the firstness of it.
So how about, are you gonna start sending some stuff to PSA?
I am. I actually am.
Oh, Sal. Yeah, nice, Sal. Let's go, dude. Let's have some
Yeah,
fun.
man. To be honest with you, I guess I'm a slab whore. I don't care. If I'm going for the book, I'm going for the book. If I need that book or want that book or like that book, I'm going to go for that book.
Yeah.
And if CBCS has it at $30 and CGC has it at $50, I'm going to go to the CBCS one. Because that's how it is. I don't plan on reselling these. These are staying with me. I'm not parting with them. I sent off a whole batch of books to CGC to be graded, and I did a roll of the dice video on it, and I sent them in, no press, no clean, nothing. Here's the books. Give me what I get. And I took a lot of those books to Baltimore Comic-Con, and I turned around and I sold them. And because they were the ones that I did, either I had a duplicate copy of, or I wasn't too attached to the character or to the book. And I sold a lot of those books, and I turned around and I came back with 3 major keys.
Nice.
And 2 with one was slow, one was graded. So
I mean, I found the guy at Baltimore Comic-Con last year when I was looking at buying a book that I wanted from a vendor, and I was like, I just don't really have enough. Like, I got enough for it, but it's everything I have left, and I'd like to have some money to buy some dinner or something. And I just kind of mentioned like, hey, unless you want some sketch covers, I'll trade you for me. He goes, oh, there's a guy over there that does it, and I went and took him to him, and he bought a couple of them, and the money I got from that went back to the vendor and was able to buy the first appearance of the Vision, which my buddy just, our friend just took to Heroes Con and got Roy Thomas to autograph for me.
Nice. Yeah.
The first appearance of Vision, because it's not something that I used to be. Is that the red cover with Vision on it? Is that the book? Okay, yeah. It's amazing that you bring that up because that's the first comic book that PSA posted on their PSA Comics Instagram page.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So when does is there I forget what it's not census, the population
report. It's not up yet. It's going to be up very soon. So all the data, all of the books that are coming in, all the data is cataloged, But in terms of like having their, their tech team make that portal available publicly, that hasn't switched on yet. So that's coming very soon. So nothing is in PSA's, nothing has come through PSA that they haven't recorded and haven't cataloged. They just haven't made it publicly available yet. But dude, I'm so excited. Everything comes with graders notes.
I'm already thinking, I think I'm going to send a book, and I was thinking I've got that a stack of stuff to the side. Like, yeah, I'll get these graded when I eventually have the money. But for me, it's to send stuff to get graded. I'm like, I could spend the money to get this graded, or I could spend that money to buy another comic. But the stuff I have set aside, I'm like, that Alex Ross timeless Captain America cover would probably look pretty good with this, with the colors and design of the PSA label.
Yeah.
The all white background and then the Captain America, it'd probably look pretty good. So
that's the series that Alex Ross did where the backgrounds are white for all the characters that he did in
figure,
that,
right?
Yep. That's how I felt about my Web of Spider-Man #1, the Charles Vest cover, is one of my favorite covers of all time.
That's a great cover.
Gorgeous cover.
And what we all know about that cover is, there's the main art, but then right at the top, the web of is written in like that reddish orange webbing.
Yeah.
And that little splash of red is gonna, in my opinion, I think work beautifully with the red on the label. So I submitted 2 of those to PSA, both newsstands, because I'm a newsstand whore, you know how that goes. But
you're gonna you'll eventually get something back from CGC. You'll get a 10.0 newsstand, and you'll send it back. Put a 9.9 on it, damn it.
Yeah, what the hell, guys? Get out of here. Give me, I was never successful at grading a 9.9. I took a couple of stabs at it. It even did like small comparative grading sort of efforts, and it didn't pan out. Their process of giving 9.9s is not calculated. It's just a whim. It's just nonsense.
I've got one book. I've got one 9.9.
From a submission?
No, not from a submission. I bought it secondary market.
Okay.
Now, our friend owns a comic store. He doesn't have some 9.9s, but he has gotten back a few 10s.
Yeah.
Do the 10s generally come back on the modern books? Because that's where I see it happening, like brand new.
Yeah, it's modern books, and it's mostly I've seen them come back from distillery comics.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hint it. I'm tease something. And I've talked about these books many times. The books that I love, that I believe to be, and I'm not talking brand new books. I'm talking books that are very difficult to find in 9, 9, and 10 condition. Very difficult, but I have found them. And because there's certain books that I engage with where I have had hundreds of them, and I continue to. And one of those books, I've had a copy for many years now that I always knew was a 9.9 or better, but I also always knew that if I sent it to CGC, they would just give me the arbitrary 9.8. And so I refused to send it. And in that box, in that part of my collection, where it is my personally graded 9.9s or better, but I never submitted them for grading, over the last 6 years, 5 to 6 years, that collection has started to grow. The books that I don't plan on selling, they're the highest grade copies I've ever found of my favorite books ever, and I don't want 9.8s on them because they're better than 9.8s. How do I know? Because I've graded dozens of them in 9.8s already. I know what makes a 9.8 of that book. Why would I let this just be called a 9.8? It's better.
Mm-hmm.
So now is the time for me to get the appropriate grade on those books, because I feel like PSA is not going to gatekeep the 10, right? You're not going to get a 9.9. If it just looks like a clean 9.8, you're going to get a 9.8. But if there's no defect that you can recognize on that book, your corners are sharp, your spines have no tick, your staples don't have any stress,
no fingerprint on the foil,
no fingerprint on the foil, you got yourself a chance at a 10 here. If it's a 10, they're going to give it the 10. And that's not how CGC played the game. So that part of my collection is finally going to get tested. I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. Have you sent some of those already?
Yeah.
Nice.
I
I follow
that's
you on Instagram, so like I said, before we even came on, I like seeing the stuff you post because I look at them like you financial wise, you operate in a stratosphere that I can only hope to. But
Yeah.
it's not just the money for it too,
right.
because it's the unique stuff that I've seen you have on there. Like there was the Spider-Man poster, the McFarlane one where it's him in the costume and then the other costume like hanging
Yes, that's my
behind.
baby,
I like
bro.
I had that puzzle when I was a kid.
I have the puzzle. I have 2 boxes of the puzzle right here. That's how special those things. And that's not about money. Those puzzles
Yeah.
cost me $10 a piece. They're priceless. I'm sorry, I start yelling because
That's all right. You're passionate.
I love that stuff, dude. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
carry on. Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
But it's like
You know,
it's the
even
unique
this
stuff.
thing.
The unique stuff that I see you post on there. I think I don't have a ton of unique stuff. I got this when Marvel had that Overpower game. I have this
Yeah,
thing.
heck yeah.
It's not that unique because Wizard did them, but it's like a full, almost comic size, like foil looking card of Gambit fighting Venom on it. That was
This is the postcard.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
Look,
awesome.
this is the actual postcard,
that's
right? Because
awesome.
that image. Oh, I'm going to be sharing a secret about this image in a few months. I have to keep my mouth shut for a little while because I'm still gathering. I'm very strategic about that because if people think what I'm about to say is as cool as I think it is, well, then I'm going to get screwed out of buying them. So I have to buy a few more of this thing and then I'm going to share it. But I think I have a secret about this that no one talks about. And I'm not sure yet. Once I put this notion out there, the community will tell me if I'm an idiot or not. And I look
Yeah.
forward to finding out. But I have a theory and I'm going to test the theory publicly. And I'm fine being wrong. It's not like there's $1 million on the line. It's just a theory and we'll see what it is. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was gonna say and another unique thing I have is I used to have a friend that worked in a movie theater when the first X-Men movie came out, and remember those character banners they would have in there, like the thin ones.
Yes.
I got it's one of the things on the shelf behind me with all those
That's
posters.
cool.
It's the Magneto one.
That's
Nice.
freaking cool, bro.
But I
No,
got nowhere. I don't have anywhere to really hang it up. And I'm like, I keep thinking like I should sell this. It's just sitting rolled up here. Like I don't have anywhere to put it. But I've also looked at it before. I'm like, I can't find any, like when you sell stuff, you talk about like the comp prices. I haven't been able to find anything comparable for it being sold to know what even to price it at.
Right. For the unique stuff, that is something we run into often, right? Like, how do you price something that first many people don't have and no one's ever really sold? And sometimes, you know what's interesting? Okay, we'll use this example. That Stan Lee presents McFarlane VHS.
Oh
right?
yeah.
With Spawn on it. That is actually the first time Spawn was ever printed in color. Now, it's not a comic book, it's on the cover of a VHS. But it is the first time Spawn was ever printed in color on the cover of something. Now, here's the interesting thing about comping that item. There are people that don't know anything about what a Spawn collector thinks about that. And they will go to a thrift shop or they'll go to a garage sale and they'll find a copy and they'll put it up on eBay for $25 because they just think it's some comic book VHS, right? And so if you list it for $25, you can't sell for more than $25, so your comp is going to be $25. But I know what that is, and I'm going to sell it to someone that knows what that is, so I'm ignoring the hell out of that comp. That comp means nothing to the informed buyer. And so the same week that one sells for 25, I sell one for 250 because I'm selling it to a collector that's knocking on my door asking me if I have the VHS because they know what they're after. And if they don't want to pay $250 for it, well, I tell them I don't say it's $250 and that's the price. I tell them like this: to buy one for me, the lowest I sell an open one for is $250, and it goes up from there. But if you don't want to spend that money, I totally respect it. What you have to do is save that search on eBay, and you got to buy the next one that pops up before I do. And then you're good to go, right? Because they do pop up for $20, $30. But if I don't see it first, someone else will. You have to see it before the 5 or 6 people that know and they're hunting.
Well,
And
Sal's
if
got
you,
unique stuff. You got stuff from the when you used to work at the WB store, right? You
Oh
got
yeah,
the Avengers.
what?
You know, the Washington Capitals last year did an Avengers comic,
yeah.
and Sal
Mhm.
has season tickets, so he went there and he came back with like 5 or 6
7 of them.
of them because he got one and he knew that we'd all want one. But
That's
I
Right.
mean,
awesome, actually.
and I
Yeah.
was thinking, oh, all the hockey teams must do this. And I started Googling it, and I'm like, no, there's only one other hockey team that's done like a Marvel comic with them. So,
It was pretty cool. When I worked at Warner Brothers, I worked during the time frame of the Joe Schumacher Batmans. Okay, and you remember
Mhm.
Batman Forever? You remember the big bat symbol with the Batman Forever on it?
Hell yeah.
That was up on the marquee wall. All right, I actually had that for a good period of time, and it was, I don't know, about 12 feet long, maybe about 4 feet high. It was huge,
That's
and
awesome.
I was living at my parents' house at the time, and I had enough room to actually hang it up on the wall there. But eventually, I got rid of it because it was just too cumbersome to have. I couldn't store it anywhere. It had to be on the wall, or it's going to be jammed in a closet somewhere. So I got rid of it.
I hope you
But
did
I think
well when you
Gary
sold
has
it. It seems cool.
I
yeah,
think doesn't Gary have one of the big subway things from Batman?
I think so. Yeah, I think he does.
You know, the giant ads they put in subways because he
Man,
used to
those
work
kind
for
of things are super cool.
he used
Yeah.
to work for Metro. I think he said he still has it. It's just too big to display, but it's
When
the
the
big subway display for the
yeah,
first Batman movie.
You
when
know,
the
I'm a big Wizard fan. You guys know that about me.
Oh, I know. I see all the I
yeah,
I'll say that I've told the guys this before. I was actually printed in Wizard twice.
Get out of here for real. What
Yeah.
can we? Do you have the issues? Have we talked about this? I think you
he
mentioned
won't
this to
say.
me.
He will never say. He'll probably DM you if he wants to tell you, but he'll never tell us.
There's 2 issues that I was printed in. I've told them this multiple times, and they say they're going to look for them because I don't tell them what they are. But I'm
I
in
don't
there.
have 'em.
My picture is in there 2 times is in 2 issues.
I want to know, man. I want to know. Well, I'm gonna figure out. I think AI can help me. I'm gonna put in Dan Kelly art and some AI engine, combine it with Wizard magazine, have it scrub the hell out of the internet, and maybe it'll pop up my result.
Oh, it's not art that's in there. It's me.
Just a picture of him
In
as a
what
kid.
capacity are you in there?
I can't say that because then they would easily figure it out. I'll message you separately and tell you.
See,
Oh shit! Okay. This is
and
so
then
funny.
and
I
then
thought
I'm gonna
Sal was
message you.
joking.
Then I'm gonna
Hold on.
message you and get the information out of you.
I just feel like guessing now. I feel like guessing what you were.
I'll tell you guys. I'll tell you guys off air.
Okay. Oh yeah. All right. All right.
I'll let you know too, Sal, so you can be in on the secret.
I actually do not have a lot of Wizard magazines, so
I loved Wizard. I wish that was
Bro,
still.
I love Wizard so much. Man, I love Wizard so much. And I guess I need to get some Wizards encapsulated in some PSA slabs. That only is right, right?
yeah.
Hey, if
I
you
guess
want, there's a couple of them I'll autograph for you.
I'm gonna track these down, man. I'm gonna find out what you got going on in there in good old Garib Seamus's publication. The Wizard is something special to me, man. It was special to me in the 90s. It brings back all those memories. Yeah, Wizard was very cool.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I still, even with the day and age of the internet where we get this news like that, if they still put a magazine, if Wizards still put a magazine out the way that they did in their prime, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
Because it was more than, there was so much stuff other than just, there was the news and the price guide, but there's like the art tutorials, and there's the fan casting stuff for movies, and the little toy fair thing, things like, there was just so much cool stuff in there.
You know what's interesting about you saying that, and I've had this conversation, but PSA is also proving that people still enjoy physical media because they monthly send out a magazine. And people read this magazine every month. Like, we don't pick up magazines at grocery stores the way we used to, right?
Yeah.
We don't have magazine subscriptions the way we used to. But isn't it interesting to think that PSA, the most tech-focused, future-ready, well, they are preparing for the future in a big way. So one of the tech-focused grading companies actually decided to pull on the nostalgia strings and say, you know what? We're going to ship out a physical magazine. Like, who in this day and age decides to do that? But people are enjoying it, consuming it, collecting it. It does still work in our community,
Yeah.
like it's very cool to us still.
Yeah.
Because most of us are older anyway. It's not like we don't remember magazines, but if someone's 14 or 15 years old right now, they ain't never read a magazine,
You know what? We still go to the comic shop every week and pick up our subscriptions. Yeah, we're still sitting there and reading books.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys, when you guys are, in comic shops in the 90s, were you like me in the sense that you could spend hours just going through a previews catalog? Were you ever that person?
Yeah.
Black and white, flipping through, saying, "Oh, I would love to buy that. Oh, I can't wait to see that in person."
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Yep.
those were the days.
My original comic book store had that previews magazine like on the counter just for
Yep.
people to flip through.
Heck yeah, and that's what I used to do. I used to do that, and my first job, local comic book store in the town, in not the town I grew. Yeah, pretty much. A pretty important time in my life. So, growing up, there's a local comic book store. My mother and father used to take me to it, and the owner was a really nice guy. His name was Ray. And one day, my mom said, my son likes to come here all the time, and I don't have time to just hang out with him while he's here. And sometimes he's just looking around and he's not even trying to buy anything. He just really likes being in this environment and learning. So you seem like a really nice guy. Do you think I could just drop him off and to take care of him for a couple hours, basically put him to work, right? And I think that's what my mom agreed on with him, was like, look, utilize him the way you would a young person that isn't like out of control or anything. I was always kind of like a nerdy kid at that age, so like bagging and boarding books, protecting things, and following the rules was very much a part of who I was at that age. And so it wasn't a liability for me to be in the shop. I wasn't going to be the kid in the shop throwing gummy bears or something like that. You know what I mean? And
That sounds like
I was very I didn't turn into a pain in the butt until later. I was quite reserved when I was younger. And so my mom, I guess, had some sort of agreement with Ray where, like, 4 or 5 hours out of the day, I would be there and I literally bagged and boarded. And my payment was brand new comic books, but oftentimes it was piles of previews catalogs because I loved those things. I would be at home. We had a room that that we never did anything in, like the guest room, like the family space that always kept really clean, and only when visitors were over you would go have like drinks in that room or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But I remember I would just be in the sitting room, right? And I would be the only person in that room for hours circling things in previews catalogs that we never bought. Statues are $300-$400. Who's gonna buy them to you? No one. But it's fun to circle it and say, I can't wait till this makes it to the shop. I want to see this thing. Anyway, I get stuck in my little nostalgia thing.
I used to be that way with the Sears catalog. When I was a kid,
100%.
The catalog comes, flip over to the toy section. I want this, I want this, I want this.
Same exact thing.
Figures. Yep. I want these.
Same exact. The Sears catalog, the JCPenney catalog,
yeah.
And don't let it be the holiday season, because those catalogs were the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Kids will never know anymore. Now they get their specials through a Target email that no one opens.
I told my wife that I genuinely, I don't say this to be flippant, like I genuinely feel sad for my daughter who's 7 years old that unless something changes, she's never going to get to experience going into a Toys R Us. Because you go to, like, right? You go to the little toy section in Walmart or Target. It's not the same going into the Toys R Us, or the KB Toys in the mall. She's never going to get to experience going to the mall and just going with a pocket full of quarters and going to the arcade. She's never going to get to experience that. Oh, you know what? Me and my friends are getting together and, on the Friday or Saturday night, and we're going to go to the video store and we're going to spend an hour just looking at all the ones and picking the one or two that we want to get and grabbing some candy and, you know, renting the PlayStation game. Like, it's the simple things like that. And you're like, oh, well, you can get it. It's not the same scrolling through Netflix. You know, it's just not. It's not the same scrolling through Amazon. Like, it's the environment. It's getting to go in there and just, you know, be happy and see all these toys, all these videos and stuff. And, you know, I told her, like, I genuinely feel sad that she's never going to get to experience that.
It's different. You know, I think about it like, you know, we have so many emotional triggers based on the physical places we used to go. The scents and smells of going somewhere, right? Like going to a video store, going Friday night, Blockbuster, right? Getting a little bit of candy from the front as if it's a stand at a movie theater, but you're going home with it, you know, and you rented a few movies. What are the emotional triggers, or what are the like the warm emotional connections that a young person is developing right now when everything is sort of happening through a screen? How are you going to get reminded of something? What nostalgia is going to hit you in 30 years if you've never smelled anything? You know, like when I walk into a bookstore, that's the smell of nostalgia. When I walk into a comic book store, that's the smell of nostalgia. I'm smiling because of the smell.
Look, I'll get an old. I got a stack of comics here. I went to a dollar show the other day where all the vendors, everything was $1. Some were 50 cents. You get some of the old ones. I'll take it. It's just
I've done that.
That's the stuff.
Paper, so there's nothing like it.
That's the stuff, man.
I'm working on completing my X-Men Volume 1 series run, and I'm close, but I'm now down to the really older books.
Don't sell yourself short. He's real close.
Yeah,
wow.
Really close.
Nice.
And
very
there's really older books now. And every time I get one of them, I'm nose deep into those, smelling those, because that's what I remember. There was an old comic book shop in Wheaton. Dan probably remembers it. It was called Barbarian Comics, I believe it was called. And yeah, you walk into that, and you were just hit with that smell of comic books. Amazing. It was just amazing.
It's amazing, man. And like there are some towns, there are some malls in some cities that still feel like a kind of a 90s mall, which is so nice. I love just walking through it, but it's rare these days, right? Because you're right, there's no comic book store in the mall anymore. You know, there's no arcade in the mall anymore. Well, we got things like arcades. You got these like really
Dave and Buster's.
Sort of Dave and Buster's.
Not exactly the same.
It's not exactly the same. It's like it's on another level. It's almost like too cool. Like, you guys got everything in here. This isn't the arcades I remember.
It's
I like
not
a
the
dirty,
days where
dark arcade.
It's not the days where there was Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or Primal Fear, and you were all waiting in line, and you got next game, and someone's like, "No, I got next game," and you just set your quarter on the little ledge there, and you're like, "All right, there's 3 quarters ahead of me," and you just stayed there and waited for your turn.
Yep.
Exactly. You know what it sounds like we're describing? It sounds like, as weird as it is to say, we miss the analog days.
Oh,
things right? Everything is too much like, well, it's not even at your fingertips anymore. I could just tell Siri to do something now.
Yeah.
You know, and we're quickly, not to sound like this, but we're quickly getting to a place where, you know, I won't even have to actually order my groceries to order my groceries. Like, the AIs built into these things will know my schedule, know when I'm low on something, and I just got to whisper some device to order something, and my Amazon delivery will show up tomorrow, and my PayPal account will be charged. Well, I guess PayPal doesn't work with Amazon, I don't believe, but you know what I'm saying. Like, we're not even engaging with anything anymore. You know, we're basically living in a virtual reality. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Hey, Siri, I need a 9.9 newsstand.
Bring it on, please. You know, and that's the other thing happening in the collectible world, where I'm going to kind of be I'm going to sound like the old grumpy guy complaining, but I'm going to let everyone have their fun. Well, it's not up to me to let them. People are going to enjoy what they enjoy. But, you know, we're entering this this stage in collectibles where the physical possession of the item for a lot of people is going to be removed, meaning people are going to buy a raw card from eBay or a comic book, right? Because this is going to happen for comic books soon as well. It's already happening for cards, but the integration will just take time because eBay and PSA have a partnership. And so what I'm describing is, you'll buy a raw card from eBay, and instead of having it shipped to you, you'll select the button that says send it for grading to PSA. So then you'll get an additional charge. It goes to PSA. And then when it's at PSA and the grades are ready, you have options. And the options are going to be ship it to you, put it for sale on eBay through PSA's integration with eBay, or put it in the vault. The vault is where they keep it in a secure location, but you know it's part of your collection, and you can opt to make it available for sale on eBay whenever you want, or they'll just store it for you. And if your purpose for grading it was just to sell it, it's going to go from eBay to PSA, back to eBay, shipped to the customer, and that customer is going to decide if they want to vault it or have it. The point I'm making is a lot of people engaging in collectibles are no longer going to hit the ship it to me button. They're going to vault it or they're going to sell it, and all of it's going to take place without them ever actually seeing the damn thing. That makes me sort of sad.
I don't think I could ever do that. Like if I have it, I want to hold it. I want to be like, look what I got. I want to put it on my fake spinner rack. I want to do, if I spent money on it, I want to possess it. But it's like that with our paychecks now. It used to be you got a check and you went to the bank and you cashed it. Now you have a number that shows up in your bank account, and then that number gets smaller as as bills are paid. Like how unless you physically go to the bank and to the ATM and you take money out, you don't have money. You just have numbers on that show up on a screen and then disappear as they go to a different screen.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. That's really it. But yeah, guys, man, PSA is here, and we're all gonna have fun watching what's happening. And books are gonna start coming back that people have submitted, and it's fun. And I'm really excited about my first PSA post. I can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's super excited.
I can't wait to send off some books to them. I'm really looking at the screen right now on that. So
yeah, and when we do this again, and when we do this again, if you'll have me on, sometime down the line, we'll talk about
you have
our
an open
experience.
invitation. You have an open invitation to come on anytime. In fact, you could just jump on one of our streams and be like, "Yeah, come on in."
I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I look forward to next time because, I'm sure we could talk a lot about a lot of things because, man, and I just talk a lot in general, but I think that's one of the coolest things about our space is, we talk about values, we talk about money. I love talking about buying and selling, but that's not what brought us all here. The benefit, it's cool that we get to do all of that from our passion, but it's our passion that brought us here. It's literally about growing up in the 80s and 90s and reflecting and reminiscing is a big part of this stuff.
Very much so. Very much so.
And that connects us regardless of anything else if it would have ever connected us. That is the fiber.
Yeah, I look back at some of the books I have, like I look back at and they might not be the most valuable books, but you look back at them and you remember where you were. Like I look at Flash 350, and I remember, I was at the air show in Oshkosh with my dad when I got this because I liked the Flash. It was around the time the Wesley show came out. We had a friend of the family, and a family that was friends with our family, and the son was a few years older than me. He was into comics like I was, but he'd been into it longer, and he was a Flash fan, and I got into it. And I look at my copy of Flash 350 that I got at this, when I was at this air show in this flea market there, and it takes me back there.
Takes you back immediately.
Yeah, and I can remember sitting there under the wing of the plane in the sun, reading this book and, talking to David Ethel there about it. And, that was 30 years ago.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it takes you right back like it was yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that.
Sal, it's like Sal with his meatball subs. Every time he takes a bite into it, he tastes that marinara. It takes him right back to that first one.
That's right.
You gotta love it.
Absolutely.
Gotta love it.
There's nothing wrong with a good meatball sub. Let me tell you right now. Breakfast, lunch,
man.
dinner. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
All right, man. We've been on here a while, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us about this. It's been fantastic talking with you again, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with PSA.
Yeah.
I'm going to submit a book or two to them.
Let's have fun.
We'll see how
Let's
it
have
goes.
fun. Yeah, and let's have fun and let's see what the experience is. But guys, it's absolutely been a blast, and I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next time. And we're gonna be in touch in the meantime anyway. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. One more time, tell everybody where they can find you, and all the stuff that you do really quick there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, guys, just come through on the Instagram page, the 9.9 Newsstand. It's like my home. Shoot me any questions you ever want to shoot me. I just love that. I love the communication. I love helping. I love learning from people. Let's just connect. It's that simple.
Awesome.
And follow him. Some really cool stuff that he posts. Stuff you didn't even know existed. And you're like, man, that's cool.
That is so true.
I appreciate that.
So true.
I very much appreciate it, guys.
All right. This host over here, my co-host, my buddy in crime, Dan the Kelly Art. Thank you very much. I am Sal the Slab Guy for the Codex Station. This has been another episode of the Codex Slab. We'll see you guys next time, and buy what you want. Enjoy it, like he says. And we'll see you guys next time.
What's your sign-off line, Sal?
Oh, I hope you guys have a 9.8 day. That might have to change. To be. I hope you guys have a PSA 10 day.
Hey.
We'll see. But my usual sign-off line is I hope you guys have a 9.8 day. All right. Peace.
Hey, coders. If you like that, give us a subscribe. And if you want more content like that, definitely check out the videos above. Hope you enjoy it. There's a lot for everyone.